a Werewolf Shifter Romance audiobook written by Michael. Chapter 1. The scroll was older than memory itself. Elara's fingers trembled as she unfurled the brittle parchment, its edges crumbling like ash beneath her touch. The attic of her grandmother's estate had stood silent for decades, dust motes dancing in the single shaft of moonlight that pierced through the broken shutter. She shouldn't be here. Not after the funeral. Not after the lawyers had sealed the house with their red tape and solemn warnings. But the dream had been too vivid, too insistent. Find the truth before the blood moon rises. Find what was hidden. Find who you are. Her grandmother's voice, clear as crystal, had echoed through 3 nights of restless sleep. And now, kneeling on rotted floorboards with cobwebs clinging to her hair, Elara understood why. The symbols on the scroll began to glow. Impossible, she whispered, but her skin told a different story. Heat bloomed across her left shoulder blade, a burning sensation that made her gasp and drop the parchment. She twisted, yanking down the collar of her shirt, and froze. A mark, silver and luminous, etched into her flesh as if it had always been there, waiting. It was intricate, a wolf's head crowned with crescent moons, surrounded by ancient runes that pulsed with their own inner light. The same symbol from the scroll. The same symbol that had been carved into her grandmother's gravestone, though Elara had thought it merely decorative. You carry the mark of House Silverthorn. Elara spun, heart hammering. A man stood in the attic doorway. No, not just a man. Everything about him radiated predatory grace. The way he moved without sound, the way shadows seemed to cling to his broad shoulders, the way his eyes caught the moonlight and reflected it back like polished amber. Who are you? How did you get in here? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. She grabbed the nearest object, an old candlestick, and held it like a weapon. His lips quirked, though the expression held no humor. That won't help you. Not against me. Not against what's coming. He stepped into the light, and Elara's breath caught. He was beautiful in the way storms were beautiful, dangerous, untamed, overwhelming. Dark hair fell across his forehead, and a scar traced his jawline, giving him a roguish appearance that didn't quite hide the authority in his bearing. He wore all black, clothes that seemed designed for swift movement, and when he shifted his weight, Elara caught the gleam of something metallic at his hip. A blade. Silver. My name is Kieran Ashwood, he said, voice low and rough like gravel over silk. Alpha of the Northern Territories. Guardian of the Bloodline Archives. And the last person standing between you and those who would see you dead before you claim what's yours. I don't know what you're talking about. But even as she said it, the mark on her shoulder burned hotter, and somewhere deep in her chest, something ancient stirred. A recognition. A knowing that defied logic. Kieran's eyes narrowed. You feel it, don't you? The awakening. Your blood remembers what your mind has forgotten. He moved closer, each step deliberate. Your grandmother was the last guardian of a secret that kingdoms have died to protect. You are Elara Silverthorn, not Elara Collins, as you've been led to believe. You are the last living heir of the Silver Dynasty, the bloodline that once ruled all packs from the northern reaches to the southern wilds. That's insane. I'm human. Are you? He tilted his head, studying her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. Have you never wondered why animals follow you? Why you heal faster than you should? Why you dream of forests you've never walked through and hear howls in your sleep that no one else can hear? Elara's throat went dry. She had wondered. All her life, she'd wondered. The blood moon rises in 7 days, Kieran continued, his voice taking on an urgency that raised the hair on her arms. When it does, the wards your grandmother placed will fail. Every alpha, every pack, every power-hungry lord who wants to control the ancient bloodlines will know exactly where you are. And they will come for you. Why? What do they want from me? Everything. The single word hung in the air like a death sentence. Your bloodline doesn't just carry royal heritage. It carries the key to powers long thought lost. The ability to unite the packs, to end the century-old wars that have fractured our kind. Or, he paused, and something dark flickered across his face. To destroy us all. The scroll on the floor burst into silver flame. Elara yelped and stumbled backward, but the fire didn't spread. It consumed only the parchment, burning without heat, without smoke. When it faded, ash rose into the air and swirled around her in a vortex of light. Words formed in the glowing particles. Words in a language she shouldn't understand but somehow did. When silver blood awakens, the fallen throne shall rise. united in love or divided by war. The fate of all packs rests in the hands of the last daughter. Choose your champion. Choose your destiny. Choose wisely, for some legacies sleep for centuries, waiting for love to awaken them. The ash dissolved. Silence crashed back into the attic. Elara looked at Kieran, whose expression had gone carefully blank. A prophecy, she breathed. The prophecy, he corrected. Written 300 years ago by the last seer of House Silverthorn, your 5 times great-grandmother. He crossed his arms. I've spent the last decade searching for you. Your grandmother hid you well, glamours, false records, moving you every few years. She died to keep your location secret from those who would manipulate you or kill you before you could fulfill your destiny. And you, what do you want from me? For the first time, something like vulnerability flashed in those amber eyes. To keep you alive long enough to understand what you are, what we could be. He extended his hand. Come with me, Elara. Let me show you the world you were born to rule. Let me teach you to wield the power in your blood. Let me. A howl split the night. Then another. And another. A chorus of savage voices rising from the forest beyond the estate, getting closer with every second. Kieran's entire demeanor changed. The careful control vanished, replaced by lethal focus. He grabbed Elara's arm, pulling her toward the window. They found you faster than I anticipated. We need to move. Now. Who? The Blackthorn Pack. Rivals to House Silverthorn for 3 centuries. If they take you, they'll either force you into a blood bond or ensure no heir ever threatens their claim to the territories again. He threw open the window, and cold night air rushed in. Do you trust me? I don't even know you. A crash from downstairs. Snarls. The sound of wood splintering. Kieran's eyes met hers, and in their depths she saw something that made her choice for her. Not a threat, but a promise. A vow written in silver and moonlight and ancient magic. Then trust your blood, he said. It recognizes me. It knows. And it did. Heaven help her, it did. Elara took his hand. He pulled her out the window onto the roof, just as the attic door exploded inward. Massive shapes poured through. Not men, not anymore. Wolves the size of bears, with eyes that gleamed red in the darkness and fangs that dripped silver saliva. The Blackthorn assassins. Kieran's body rippled, bones cracking and reforming in a transformation so swift it seemed like magic. One moment, a man. The next, a wolf of pure midnight, larger than any of the beasts below, with eyes that burned like captured starlight. He lowered his head, and Elara understood. She climbed onto his back, fingers tangling in thick fur, and held on as Kieran leaped from the roof into the night. The forest swallowed them whole, and behind them, howls of rage and pursuit shattered the silence of the Silver Bloodline's long sleep. The hunt had begun, and Elara Silverthorn, last heir of a dynasty thought dead, bearer of a mark that could unite or destroy worlds, had finally awakened to her destiny. Some legacies sleep for centuries, waiting for love to awaken them. Hers had just opened its eyes. Chapter 2. The journey north took 3 days. 3 days of running through forests that grew darker and wilder with each passing mile. 3 days of sleeping in hidden caves and abandoned dens while Kieran stood watch, his wolf form a silent sentinel against the night. 3 days of questions that Elara couldn't ask because every time she opened her mouth, Kieran would press a finger to his lips and tilt his head, listening for pursuit. The Blackthorn Pack was relentless. Now, as dawn broke over the mountain peaks, Elara finally understood why Kieran had pushed so hard. Before them stood a fortress that defied belief, carved directly into the mountainside, its towers rising like stone fingers reaching for the sky. Ancient banners fluttered from battlements, their symbols faded but still visible. Wolves, moons, and the intricate crests of noble houses long forgotten by the human world. Welcome to Silver Peak Keep, Kieran said, his voice hoarse from days of silence. He'd shifted back to human form an hour ago, though Elara noticed he kept glancing over his shoulder, never fully relaxed. The last stronghold of the old dynasties. The only place where the ancient laws still hold power. Elara stumbled on tired legs, and Kieran caught her elbow. The touch sent a jolt through her. Not unpleasant, but intense, like static electricity mixed with something warmer. He felt it too. She saw the brief widening of his eyes before he carefully released her. How long has this place been here? She asked. Since before your bloodline fell. Nearly 300 years. He started forward, and Elara followed, her boots crunching on frost-covered stone. When the Silver Dynasty collapsed, when your ancestors were slaughtered in the Great Betrayal, the few who survived fled here. They built this keep as a sanctuary, a place where bloodline magic runs too deep for enemies to breach. Your grandmother was born within these walls. The massive gate stood open, and as they passed through, Elara felt something shift. The air grew thick with power, humming against her skin like a living thing. The mark on her shoulder blazed hot, then settled into a steady warmth. "The wards recognize you," Kieran said quietly. "They know their mistress has returned." Inside, the keep was a marvel. Torches burned with silver flame in brackets along stone corridors. Tapestries depicted battles and ceremonies, wolves running beneath full moons, and figures crowned in light leading armies. Elara caught glimpses of her own face in some of the woven images. Or rather, faces that could have been hers, if she'd been born centuries ago. The resemblance was uncanny. "The Hall of Bloodlines," Kieran said, gesturing to a massive chamber they passed. Through its open doors, Elara saw walls covered in intricate family trees, branches spreading like actual trees, glowing with different colored lights. Every major house is recorded there. Your lineage traces back 73 generations. 73? Elara's head spun. "The werewolf bloodlines are old, Elara. Older than human civilization. We've walked this earth for millennia, hidden in plain sight, our histories preserved in places like this." He led her up a winding staircase. But the Silver Dynasty was special. Your ancestors didn't just rule, they unified. They possessed gifts that made them natural leaders, peacemakers, the glue that held fractious packs together. They emerged into a circular chamber at the top of a tower. Windows on all sides offered breathtaking views of the mountains, and in the center stood a pool of water that reflected the morning sky with impossible clarity. Around its edge, 7 stone thrones sat empty, waiting. "The council chamber," Kieran said, "where the great houses once met to govern the packs." He walked to one throne in particular, larger than the others, carved with wolves and crowned with a silver crescent. This was your ancestor's seat, the high throne of House Silverthorn. Elara approached it slowly, almost afraid to touch the ancient stone. But when her fingers brushed the armrest, warmth flooded through her. Images flashed behind her eyes. Not memories exactly, but echoes. Women who looked like her, sitting on this throne, making decisions, resolving disputes, leading with wisdom and strength. "Why did they die?" she whispered. "What happened to them?" Kieran's expression darkened. "Betrayal. A conspiracy between 3 rival houses who feared Silverthorn power. They struck during the lunar festival, when defenses were down and the pack was celebrating. It should have been a night of joy. Instead, it became the Crimson Moon Massacre." He moved to stand beside her. "Your ancestor, the last true Silver Queen, was killed along with her mate and their children. Or so everyone believed. But someone survived. A daughter, barely 3 years old. Her nursemaid smuggled her out during the attack and fled south, into human lands. That child became the foundation of the hidden bloodline. Your bloodline. For 300 years, Silverthorn heirs have lived in secret, their powers suppressed by glamours and distance from pack lands. Until now, Elara sank onto the throne, exhaustion finally overwhelming her. "Why now? Why did my grandmother's protections fail?" She was dying. A new voice, feminine and sharp, echoed through the chamber. Elara jerked upright as a woman entered, tall, regal, with silver-white hair and eyes like chips of ice. She wore robes that seemed woven from moonlight itself, and power radiated from her in palpable waves. The wards were tied to her life force. When death claimed her, the magic unraveled. "This is Lyanna Moonwhisper," Kieran said, bowing slightly. "High Priestess of the Lunar Order and Keeper of Bloodline Records." Lyanna studied Elara with unsettling intensity. Then slowly she knelt. "My lady, the Silver Dynasty has waited 3 centuries for your return." I don't." Elara shook her head. "I don't know how to be what you need me to be." "Then you will learn." Lyanna rose gracefully. "The blood moon rises in 4 days. When it does, the ancient rites can be performed. The ceremonies that will fully awaken your heritage and restore House Silverthorn to its rightful place." Her gaze shifted to Kieran. "And the prophecy will begin its fulfillment." Something unspoken passed between them, something that made Kieran's jaw tighten. "What prophecy?" Elara demanded. "The one in the attic mentioned choosing a champion." "What does that mean?" Lyanna's smile was cold. It means, child, that your power alone is not enough. To truly restore the dynasty, to unite the fractured packs, you need an alpha mate. A partner whose bloodline complements yours, whose strength balances your gifts. She gestured to Kieran. House Ashwood has guarded Silverthorn's secrets for generations. The prophecy is clear. Only through a union of silver and ash can the dynasty rise again. Elara's stomach dropped. A union? You mean? A blood bond, Kieran said flatly. An ancient marriage rite that binds two alphas together, merging their powers and their fates. Once completed, it cannot be undone. And you knew about this? Elara stood, anger flaring. This whole time you've been planning to, trap me into some magical marriage. No, the word came out hard. I was planning to keep you alive long enough to understand your choices. The bond isn't something that can be forced, Elara. It requires willing participation from both parties. True consent. But it's expected, she shot back. It's in the prophecy. Prophecies are interpretations, not commands, Lyanna interjected smoothly. However, the facts remain. House Silverthorn needs allies. Powerful ones. The Blackthorn pack is not the only threat. House Ironpelt seeks to claim your bloodline through force bonding. House Stormfang wants you dead to eliminate competition. And House Shadowmere. She paused. Let us simply say they have their own plans for the Silver Dynasty's resurrection. Elara's head throbbed. For days ago, she'd been a normal woman, a graphic designer living in a small apartment, worrying about deadlines and rent. Now she was standing in an ancient fortress, being told she was the heir to a dynasty of werewolves and expected to marry a stranger to fulfill some 300-year-old prophecy. I need time, she said. Time to think. Time to understand what I am before I make decisions about what I'm supposed to become. Kieran nodded slowly. You'll have it. 4 days until the blood moon. Use them wisely. He turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. For what it's worth, I don't want to trap you into anything. But I will protect you. That much I can promise. He left, and the chamber felt colder without his presence. Lyanna moved to the pool, trailing her fingers through the water. Images rippled across its surface. Faces, places, moments in time. You carry the weight of 73 generations, child. Their hopes, their dreams, their unfinished business. She looked up, and her ice-chip eyes softened slightly. But you also carry their strength. When you're ready to claim it, the dynasty will rise. Until then, rest, learn, and decide what kind of queen you wish to become. She departed in a rustle of moonlight robes, leaving Elara alone with the ghosts of her ancestors and the impossible choice that loomed before her. Outside the windows, storm clouds gathered over the peaks, and somewhere in the mountains wolves howled, not in greeting, but in warning. The Silver Dynasty's enemies were coming, and they would not wait for Elara to be ready. Chapter 3. The library of Silverpeak Keep held more books than Elara had seen in her entire life. Shelves stretched 3 stories high, crammed with leather-bound volumes, ancient scrolls, and manuscripts that crackled when touched. The air smelled of old paper and something else, magic, perhaps, or simply the weight of centuries. Elara had been here for hours, poring over bloodline histories that Lyanna had left for her, and her eyes burned with exhaustion. But she couldn't stop reading. The Silver Dynasty rose to power in the age of the First Packs. One text explained, when chaos reigned and werewolf clans fought brutal wars for territory. House Silverthorn emerged with a gift that set them apart. The ability to sense truth and falsehood, to mediate disputes with supernatural clarity, and most importantly, to forge bonds between rival packs that held even when blood ran hot. Another volume detailed the hierarchy of the great houses. House Ironpelt, known for their unmatched physical strength and warrior traditions. House Stormfang, masters of strategy and cunning. House Shadowmere, practitioners of blood magic and forbidden arts. House Blackthorn, ambitious and ruthless, always seeking to expand their territories. And House Ashwood. Finding anything interesting? Elara jumped, nearly knocking over a candle. Kieran stood in the library entrance, carrying a tray of food. He'd changed clothes since this morning, trading his travel-worn blacks for dark trousers and a simple shirt that did nothing to hide the powerful lines of his body. His hair was damp, suggesting a recent bath, and without the grime of the road, he looked younger. Less harsh. Still dangerous, though. That hadn't changed. You could knock, Elara said, closing the book she'd been reading, the one about House Ashwood. I did. You were too absorbed to hear. He set the tray on a nearby table. Lioness sent food. She said you've been down here since dawn without eating. Elara's stomach growled, betraying her. She reluctantly left the books and approached the tray. Bread, cheese, dried meat, and a flask of something that smelled like spiced wine. Simple fare, but her mouth watered. Thank you. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Kieran said, What have you learned? That my family was murdered by cowards. That I'm supposed to fix 3 centuries of broken politics. That everyone expects me to marry you. She said it bluntly, watching for his reaction. His jaw tightened, but his voice stayed level. The bond is about more than marriage. It's about survival. A lone alpha, even one with a royal bloodline, can't stand against the combined forces that will come for you. But 2 alphas bonded, their powers merged. He trailed off. It changes the equation. Powers I don't have, Elara pointed out. I'm not even sure I believe in all this. Yesterday, I watched you turn into a wolf, which should be impossible. Today, I'm reading about blood magic and ancient prophecies. How do I know this isn't all some elaborate delusion? Maybe I hit my head in that attic, and I'm actually in a hospital somewhere, dreaming all of this. Kieran leaned back, studying her. You want proof that your blood is different, that you're not human. Without waiting for an answer, he reached across the table and took her hand. The effect was instantaneous. Power surged between them. Silver light erupting from their joined palms, swirling up their arms like liquid fire. Elara gasped as sensation flooded her. She could feel Kieran's heartbeat as if it were her own, sensed the wolf that lived beneath his skin, prowling and watchful. But more than that, she felt his emotions, determination, protectiveness, and something deeper. Something that made her breath catch. He pulled away, and the connection broke. The light faded. Then you will learn. Lioness rose gracefully. The blood moon rises in 4 days. When it does, the ancient rites can be performed. The ceremonies that will fully awaken your heritage and restore House Silverthorn to its rightful place. Her gaze shifted to Kieran, and the prophecy will begin its fulfillment. Something unspoken passed between them, something that made Kieran's jaw tighten. What prophecy? Elara demanded. The one in the attic mentioned choosing a champion. What does that mean? Lioness' smile was cold. It means, child, that your power alone is not enough. To truly restore the dynasty, to unite the fractured packs, you need an alpha mate. A partner whose bloodline complements yours, whose strength balances your gifts. She gestured to Kieran. House Ashwood has guarded Silverthorn's secrets for generations. The prophecy is clear. Only through a union of silver and ash can the dynasty rise again. Elara's stomach dropped. A union? You mean? A blood bond, Kieran said flatly. An ancient marriage rite that binds 2 alphas together, merging their powers and their fates. Once completed, it cannot be undone. And you knew about this? Elara stood, anger flaring. This whole time you've been planning to, trap me into some magical marriage. No, the word came out hard. I was planning to keep you alive long enough to understand your choices. The bond isn't something that can be forced, Elara. It requires willing participation from both parties. True consent. But it's expected, she shot back. It's in the prophecy. Prophecies are interpretations, not commands, Lioness interjected smoothly. However, the facts remain. House Silverthorn needs allies. Powerful ones. The Blackthorn pack is not the only threat. House Ironpelt seeks to claim your bloodline through force bonding. House Stormfang wants you dead to eliminate competition. And House Shadowmere. She paused. Let us simply say they have their own plans for the Silver Dynasty's resurrection. Elara's head throbbed. For days ago, she'd been a normal woman, a graphic designer living in a small apartment, worrying about deadlines and rent. Now she was standing in an ancient fortress, being told she was the heir to a dynasty of werewolves and expected to marry a stranger to fulfill some 300-year-old prophecy. I need time, she said. Time to think. Time to understand what I am before I make decisions about what I'm supposed to become. Kieran nodded slowly. You'll have it. 4 days until the blood moon. Use them wisely. He turned to leave, then paused at the doorway. For what it's worth, I don't want to trap you into anything. But I will protect you. That much I can promise. He left, and the chamber felt colder without his presence. Lioness moved to the pool, trailing her fingers through the water. Images rippled across its surface. Faces, places, moments in time. You carry the weight of 73 generations, child. Their hopes, their dreams. Their unfinished business. She looked up, and her ice-chip eyes softened slightly. But you also carry their strength. When you're ready to claim it, the dynasty will rise. Until then, rest. Learn. And decide what kind of queen you wish to become. She departed in a rustle of moonlight robes, leaving Elara alone with the ghosts of her ancestors and the impossible choice that loomed before her. Outside the windows, storm clouds gathered over the peaks. And somewhere in the mountains, wolves howled. Not in greeting, but in warning. The Silver Dynasty's enemies were coming, and they would not wait for Elara to be ready. Chapter 3. The library of Silver Peak Keep held more books than Elara had seen in her entire life. Shelves stretched 3 stories high, crammed with leather-bound volumes, ancient scrolls, and manuscripts that crackled when touched. The air smelled of old paper and something else, magic, perhaps, or simply the weight of centuries. Elara had been here for hours, poring over bloodline histories that Lyanna had left for her, and her eyes burned with exhaustion. But she couldn't stop reading. The Silver Dynasty rose to power in the age of the First Pax. One text explained, when chaos reigned and werewolf clans fought brutal wars for territory. House Silverthorn emerged with a gift that set them apart. The ability to sense truth and falsehood, to mediate disputes with supernatural clarity, and most importantly, to forge bonds between rival packs that held even when blood ran hot. Another volume detailed the hierarchy of the great houses. House Ironpelt, known for their unmatched physical strength and warrior traditions. House Storfang, masters of strategy and cunning. House Shadowmere, practitioners of blood magic and forbidden arts. House Blackthorn, ambitious and ruthless, always seeking to expand their territories. And House Ashwood. Finding anything interesting? Elara jumped, nearly knocking over a candle. Kieran stood in the library entrance, carrying a tray of food. He'd changed clothes since this morning, trading his travel-worn blacks for dark trousers and a simple shirt that did nothing to hide the powerful lines of his body. His hair was damp, suggesting a recent bath, and without the grime of the road, he looked younger. Less harsh. Still dangerous, though. That hadn't changed. You could knock, Elara said, closing the book she'd been reading, the one about House Ashwood. I did. You were too absorbed to hear. He set the tray on a nearby table. Lyanna sent food. She said you've been down here since dawn without eating. Elara's stomach growled, betraying her. She reluctantly left the books and approached the tray. Bread, cheese, dried meat, and a flask of something that smelled like spiced wine. Simple fare, but her mouth watered. Thank you. They ate in silence for a few minutes. Then Kieran said, What have you learned? That my family was murdered by cowards. That I'm supposed to fix 3 centuries of broken politics. That everyone expects me to marry you. She said it bluntly, watching for his reaction. His jaw tightened, but his voice stayed level. The bond is about more than marriage. It's about survival. A lone alpha, even one with a royal bloodline, can't stand against the combined forces that will come for you. But 2 alphas bonded, their powers merged. He trailed off. It changes the equation. Powers I don't have, Elara pointed out. I'm not even sure I believe in all this. Yesterday, I watched you turn into a wolf, which should be impossible. Today, I'm reading about blood magic and ancient prophecies. How do I know this isn't all some elaborate delusion? Maybe I hit my head in that attic, and I'm actually in a hospital somewhere, dreaming all of this. Kieran leaned back, studying her. You want proof that your blood is different, that you're not human. Without waiting for an answer, he reached across the table and took her hand. The effect was instantaneous. Power surged between them, silver light erupting from their joined palms, swirling up their arms like liquid fire. Elara gasped as sensation flooded her. She could feel Kieran's heartbeat as if it were her own, sense the wolf that lived beneath his skin, prowling and watchful. But more than that, she felt his emotions, determination, protectiveness, and something deeper. Something that made her breath catch. He pulled away, and the connection broke. The light faded. That, he said roughly, is what happens when 2 compatible bloodlines touch. Human hands don't spark. Human hearts don't sync. You are what the prophecy says you are, Elara. The sooner you accept it, the sooner you can decide what to do about it. Elara's hand tingled where he'd held it. Why you? She asked quietly. If this bond is so important, why does it have to be House Ashwood? Are there no other houses that would suit? There are, Kieran admitted. But my family has served yours for centuries. After the massacre, when Silverthorn fell, House Ashwood took a vow to guard the bloodline, to protect the hidden heirs, to ensure that one day the Silver Dynasty would rise again. My father dedicated his life to that search. So did his father before him. I'm the fourth generation to carry this responsibility. And if I refuse the bond? His expression shuddered. Then I continue to protect you as a guardian, nothing more. The prophecy speaks of unity through love, Elara, not obligation. If there's no love, there's no point. He stood abruptly. Finish eating. Tomorrow, Lionel begins your training. You'll need your strength. He was halfway to the door when Elara called out. What was she like? The last Silver Queen. My ancestor. Kieran paused, his back to her. Brilliant. Compassionate. Strong enough to face down the most aggressive alphas, yet gentle enough to comfort the weakest pack member. She was. He turned slightly, and Elara saw something raw in his profile. She was everything a leader should be, and when she died, the heart went out of the packs. We've been fractured ever since, bleeding slowly from a wound that won't heal. No pressure then, Elara muttered. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. You have her eyes. Did you know that? Every portrait in the keep, every description in the histories, they all mention the Silver Queen's eyes. Gray as storm clouds, they said, but warm as summer rain. His gaze met hers. Yours are exactly the same. Then he left, and Elara was alone again with the books and the weight of expectations. She returned to reading, but her focus was shattered. Instead of histories, she found herself drawn to a different section. One tucked in the back of the library, its shelves dusty with neglect. Personal journals. Diaries. One book practically fell into her hands. The leather cover was soft with age, embossed with the Silverthorn crest. Inside, elegant handwriting filled the pages, dated 302 years ago. Elara's heart hammered as she realized what she was holding. The diary of the last Silver Queen. Today, I met the man I will marry, the first entry read. Father arranged it, of course. An alliance between Silverthorn and Ashwood to strengthen our borders. I expected a brute, some muscle-bound warrior interested only in fighting and hunting. Instead, I found a man who quotes poetry and debates philosophy. His name is Kieran Ashwood, and he has his ancestors' eyes, amber gold, like captured sunlight. I think I could love him. Elara flipped through pages, reading about a courtship that blossomed despite its political origins. The Queen wrote of Rowan's kindness, his strength, the way he made her laugh during tedious council meetings. She wrote of the blood bond ceremony, how terrified she'd been, and how Rowan had held her hand through it all, whispering that they would face everything together. The bond is complete, one entry declared. I can feel him always now, his presence a steady warmth in my chest. When he hurts, I hurt. When he rejoices, I rejoice. We are no longer two separate beings, but one united force. And I am not afraid anymore. Whatever comes, we will face it side by side. Later entries spoke of ruling, of challenges and triumphs, of children born and raised, of a dynasty flourishing under their combined leadership. The final entry was dated the night before the massacre. Rowan says I worry too much. Perhaps he's right. The lunar festival has always been a time of peace, and all the houses have sworn oaths of truce. Still, I cannot shake this dread. I've hidden this diary in the library, where few venture. If something happens to me, if the worst comes to pass, perhaps one day, an heir will find these words and know that I loved fiercely, ruled justly, and died defending what mattered most. Family, pack, and the future of our kind. To that heir, I say this. Do not let fear guide you. Do not let duty crush you. Find love, even in darkness. Choose a partner who sees your soul, not just your crown. And remember, the strength of Silverthorn lies not in dominance, but in unity. We lead by bringing others together. Never forget that. Tears blurred Elara's vision. She closed the diary carefully, reverently, and pressed it to her chest. 300 years ago, a woman who looked like her, who had her eyes, had written those words. Had ruled. Had loved. Had died defending her people. And now Elara carried that legacy. She stayed in the library until the candles burned low, reading every word the Silver Queen had written, learning about the woman she was supposed to emulate, understanding, slowly, what it meant to be the last daughter of a fallen dynasty. When she finally returned to her chambers, a suite of rooms in the eastern tower, decorated with silver and white, she found something waiting on her bed. A dress. Exquisite. made of fabric that shimmered like moonlight on water. Silver thread formed patterns of wolves and crescent moons, and the neckline was designed to frame the bloodline mark on her shoulder. A note lay beside it, written in Kieran's bold handwriting. For the awakening ceremony. For days remain. Choose wisely. Elara picked up the dress, feeling its weight, its significance. Outside her window, the moon hung full and bright, 3 days from turning red. 3 days from the blood moon. 3 days from decisions that would shape centuries. She touched the mark on her shoulder, feeling it pulse with warmth, and whispered to the ghosts of her ancestors. I hope I'm strong enough. I hope I don't fail you. In the darkness, the mark glowed brighter, as if an answer. And somewhere in the keep, Kieran Ashwood stood at his own window, staring at the same moon, wondering if the last Silverthorn heir would choose duty or freedom, hoping, against all logic, that she might choose him, not because prophecy demanded it, but because her heart did. Chapter 4. Dawn broke with the sound of steel on steel. Elara woke to rhythmic clanging echoing across the keep's courtyard. She dressed quickly in the practical clothes that had been left for her. Leather trousers, a fitted tunic, boots designed for movement, and followed the sound to a training ground carved into the mountainside. Kieran stood at the center, shirtless despite the mountain chill, wielding a sword against 3 opponents at once. His body was a sculpture of controlled violence, muscles flowing beneath scarred skin as he moved with impossible speed, blocking, parrying, striking. Sweat gleamed on his shoulders, and Elara found herself unable to look away. One opponent fell, then another. The third managed to nick Kieran's arm before being disarmed, and Elara gasped as blood welled from the cut. But even as she watched, the wound began to close, healing before her eyes, skin knitting itself back together until only a faint pink line remained. Impressive, is it not? Kieran is the strongest alpha in 3 generations. His father was legendary, but the son has surpassed him. Lionel's gaze shifted to Elara. He would make a formidable mate, a powerful ally, and the bond between you would produce heirs of extraordinary ability. You make it sound like breeding horses, Elara said flatly. I make it sound like survival. Lionel's tone sharpened. Do you know how many assassination attempts have been made on this keep in the past 3 days? 17. 17 separate groups trying to breach our wards, to reach you. The only reason you still breathe is because Kieran and his warriors have spent every night defending the perimeter. Guilt twisted Elara's stomach. She'd been sleeping peacefully while others fought for her life. I didn't know. You weren't meant to. Kieran ordered silence on the matter. He didn't want you distracted. Lionel began walking toward the training ground, gesturing for Elara to follow. But ignorance serves no one. The blood moon rises tomorrow night. After that, the wards will weaken significantly. If you haven't completed the awakening ceremony and claimed your full power, this keep will fall, and you with it. They reached the edge of the training ground as Kieran dismissed his sparring partners. He grabbed a towel, wiping sweat from his face, and his eyes found Elara immediately. Something heated passed between them. Acknowledgement, awareness, the memory of yesterday's touch still fresh. She's ready, he asked Lionel. As ready as she'll ever be. The priestess clapped her hands, and servants appeared, carrying bundles wrapped in silver cloth. Elara Silverthorn, the time has come for the trials of awakening. 3 tests to prove your worth, to unlock the powers sleeping in your blood, to claim your place as heir to the Silver Dynasty. Elara's mouth went dry. What kind of tests? Lionel unwrapped the first bundle, revealing a chalice carved from crystal. Strange liquid swirled inside it, silver and luminous, like captured starlight. The trial of truth. You will drink from the chalice of ancestors and face the memories locked in your bloodline. You will relive moments from the past, walk in the footsteps of those who came before you. Many who attempt this trial go mad from the visions. But if you survive, you will gain the Silverthorn gift. The ability to sense truth from lies, to read intentions, to know the hearts of those around you. She uncovered the second bundle. A blade, wickedly sharp, its edge gleaming silver. The trial of sacrifice. You will offer your blood to the ancient pact, proving your willingness to bleed for your people. The blade is ensorcelled. It will show you your greatest fear and force you to face it. Only by conquering what terrifies you most can you proceed. The third bundle held a crown, delicate, beautiful, forged from what looked like moonbeams and shadow. The trial of unity. You will don the crown of the first queen and experience the weight of leadership. The crown reads your soul, judges your capacity to rule. If you are found wanting, if ambition or cruelty taints your heart, the crown will reject you. Violently. Elara stared at the objects, her mind reeling. And if I fail? Then you die, Lioness said simply. The trials are not symbolic, child. They are trials by fire, designed to separate true heirs from pretenders. Many of your ancestors failed them. Their bones rest in the crypts beneath this keep. That's enough. Kieran stepped forward, his expression hard. You're trying to frighten her. I'm trying to prepare her. Lionel's ice-chip eyes blazed. She needs to understand the stakes. This isn't a game or a story, Kieran. This is survival, hers and ours. I'll do it, Elara said quietly. Both of them turned to stare at her. She met their gazes steadily, drawing on reserves of courage she hadn't known she possessed. I'll face the trials. Not because I want to be queen, but because people are dying to protect me. Because if I don't at least try, all of this, the keep, the bloodline, the people, ends with me. I won't let that happen. Pride flickered in Kieran's eyes. You don't have to do this alone. I can stand with you during. No. Lionel cut him off. The trials must be faced in solitude. That is the law. Laws can be changed, Kieran growled. Not these. Not for this. The priestess turned back to Elara. We begin at sunset. Use the hours between now and then to prepare yourself mentally. Meditate. Pray. Make peace with the possibility of death, for it will walk beside you through each trial. She swept away, servants following with the sacred objects, leaving Elara alone with Kieran in the training ground. Silence stretched between them. Then Kieran said, You're braver than you know. I'm terrified, Elara admitted. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He moved closer, and despite his state of undress, Elara felt no awkwardness. Only the same pull she'd felt since meeting him. The sense of recognition. Of rightness. Can I show you something? She nodded. He led her away from the training ground, through passages carved into the mountain itself, descending into the heart of the keep. The air grew warmer, and Elara realized they were heading toward the source of heat, toward something deep and ancient. They emerged into a cavern that stole her breath. A pool of liquid silver filled the center, glowing with its own light. Steam rose in gentle coils, and the walls were covered in carvings, generations of names, dates, and symbols. Kieran gestured to them. The blood pool. Every Silverthorn heir who completed the trials added their mark here. See. He pointed to a carving near the entrance. Sarah Silverthorn, first queen, age of unity. Then others, a lineage of queens stretching back into history. The most recent was dated 303 years ago. Elara Silverthorn, Silver Queen, age of betrayal. My namesake, Elara whispered, tracing the letters. Your 5 times great-grandmother. She was the last to stand in this cavern and claim her power. Kieran's hand covered hers on the stone. She survived the trials. So did 37 queens before her. You carry their strength in your veins, Elara. When you feel weak, remember that. Elara turned to face him, their bodies close in the confined space. Why does this matter so much to you? Really? Is it just duty? The vow your ancestors made? Kieran's jaw worked, and for a moment, she thought he wouldn't answer. Then he said, My father died looking for you. He spent 20 years chasing rumors, following leads, trying to find the hidden bloodline. When I was 16, he got a credible tip, a woman matching the Silverthorn description, living in a remote village. He went to investigate. His voice roughened. It was a trap. Shadowmere assassins. They tortured him for information, then killed him when he refused to talk. I'm sorry, Elara breathed. He died protecting a bloodline he'd never even met, protecting the hope that one day, the dynasty would return and bring peace to the Pax. Kieran's amber eyes burned into hers. So yes, it started as duty, as completing what my father began. But now, he raised his hand, hesitating, then gently cupped her cheek. Now it's about you. About who you are, not what you represent. And I'll be damned if I let you face those trials thinking you're alone. You're not. Even if I can't stand beside you physically, I'll be there in spirit, believing in you, hoping for you. The confession hung between them, raw and honest. Elara's heart hammered. She could feel the connection again, that silver thread linking them, pulling tighter with every moment. It would be so easy to lean in, to close the gap, to let this attraction become something more. But she pulled back. I need to face the trials as myself, without complications. Hurt flashed across Kieran's face before he masked it. Of course. You're right. He stepped away, creating distance. I'll leave you to prepare. He was gone before Elara could explain, and she sagged against the carved wall, hating herself for the cowardice. But she couldn't afford distractions. Not now. Not when so much hung in the balance. She spent the rest of the day in meditation, as Lyanna suggested. Sitting in the cavern, staring at the blood pool, trying to quiet her racing thoughts. Images from the Silver Queen's diary kept surfacing. Descriptions of love, partnership, unity. Find a partner who sees your soul, not just your crown. Was Kieran that person? Or was she confusing attraction with destiny, chemistry with fate? Sunset came too quickly. Elara returned to the council chamber to find it transformed. Candles burned in circles around the room, their flames silver. Lyanna waited, flanked by a dozen robed figures, priests and priestesses of the lunar order. Kieran stood at the back, his expression neutral, though his eyes tracked Elara's every move. It is time, Lyanna intoned. Step forward, Elara Silverthorn, and face your birthright. Elara walked into the circle of light. The first trial began. Lyanna offered the chalice of ancestors, and Elara drank. The world exploded into memory and pain and truth, and she fell into the past, into the lives of queens who'd worn her face and carried her blood, and their voices sang in harmony. You are not alone. You are us, and we are you. Remember, remember, remember. The awakening had truly begun, and there was no turning back. Chapter 5. The liquid burned going down. Elara's throat convulsed as the contents of the chalice flooded her system. Not painful, exactly, but overwhelming. Like swallowing lightning. Like drinking pure magic. The council chamber dissolved around her, candles guttering into smoke, and she fell. Into another time. She stood in the same chamber, but it was different. Vibrant. Alive. Sunlight poured through windows that were now merely ruins, and the 7 thrones were occupied. Men and women in ceremonial robes, their faces marked with bloodline symbols, their eyes glowing with power. And in the high throne sat a woman who could have been Elara's twin. Elara Silverthorn, the Silver Queen. The petition is denied. The Queen's voice rang with authority. House Ironpelt, you cannot expand into Shadowmere territory without their consent. We exist as one confederation, not as conquerors of our own kind. A massive man rose from one of the lesser thrones. Easily 7 feet tall, built like a mountain. My house has waited 50 years for expansion rights. Shadowmere holds more land than they can possibly use. Because they need it for their sacred groves, the Queen interrupted. Where they practice the blood magic that shields all of us from human discovery. Would you sacrifice our secrecy for your ambition, Theron? Theron Ironpelt's face purpled with rage, but he sat down. Beside the Queen, a man with amber eyes and dark hair placed a calming hand on her arm. Kieran Ashwood. Elara recognized him from the diary descriptions. The Queen's mate. The love of her life. I can feel him, Elara realized. Not just watching the memory, but experiencing it. She felt the bond between them, that silver thread of connection, thrumming with shared strength and unity. When the Queen looked at Rowan, Elara felt her heart swell with love so profound it was almost painful. This is what the bond can be, a voice whispered. The Queen's voice, somehow separate from the memory. Not a prison, but a partnership. Not a loss of self, but a doubling of strength. The vision shifted. Now Elara stood in a nursery, watching the Queen cradle an infant while 2 other children, a boy and a girl, perhaps 4 and 6 years old, played with wooden wolves at her feet. Rowan sat nearby, reading aloud from a storybook, his voice warm and gentle. Will the princess defeat the dragon, Papa? The little girl asked. She will, with courage and cleverness and the help of her loyal companions. I want to be brave like the princess, the girl declared. The Queen smiled, stroking her daughter's hair. You already are, my heart. You already are. Love saturated the scene. Simple, domestic, real. This was what the histories never captured. The Queen wasn't just a ruler. She was a mother, a wife, a woman who read bedtime stories and kissed scraped knees and laughed at her children's silly jokes. We were happy, the Queen's ghost voice said. For 53 years, we built something beautiful. And then, the vision darkened. Night, the lunar festival in full swing. Music and laughter filled the keep's great hall, where hundreds of wolves in human form danced and celebrated. The Queen wore a gown of silver, and Rowan stood beside her, resplendent in formal robes. You're tense, he murmured, his lips close to her ear. A feeling. Nothing more. But even as she said it, Elara felt the queen's unease. A prickling along her spine, an instinct screaming danger. Then the doors burst open. Wolves poured in. Not guests, but attackers. Their eyes blazed red with bloodlust, and silver weapons gleamed in their hands. Screams erupted as the festival became a massacre. Elara watched in horror as allies became enemies, as those who'd sworn oaths of peace revealed their betrayal. Protect the children, Rowan roared, shifting mid-leap into his wolf form. The queen ran, her gown torn and bloodied, racing toward the nursery. But assassins blocked her path. Wolves from House Blackthorn, Ironpelt, and Stormfang. 3 houses, united in treachery. Your time is over, Silver Queen, one snarled. The age of Silverthorn ends tonight. My children, the queen's voice broke. Please, they're innocent. No heirs. No dynasty. That's the deal. They attacked. Elara screamed as she felt every wound. Claws raking across the queen's back, fangs sinking into her shoulder, blades piercing her side. The queen fought with savage desperation, taking down 2 assassins before sheer numbers overwhelmed her. She collapsed, bleeding out on the marble floor, and Rowan's howl of anguish echoed through the keep. He fought his way to her, still in wolf form, and transformed as he fell to his knees beside her broken body. No, no, no. His hands pressed against her wounds, trying to stop the bleeding, but there was too much damage. Don't leave me. You promised we'd face everything together. The children. Blood bubbled at her lips. Find them. Save them. Promise me. I promise. Tears streamed down his face. I promise, my love, my heart, my soul. The queen's hand found his cheek, trembling. Until the stars fall and the moon goes dark, I will love you. In this life and whatever comes after. Find me again, Rowan. Somewhere. Somehow. Find me. Her eyes closed. The bond between them shattered. And Kieran Ashwood threw back his head and howled. A sound of such pure agony that it seemed to crack the very foundations of the keep. He cradled his mate's body, rocking back and forth, while around them the massacre continued. He died 3 days later, the queen's voice whispered. Killed while defending our youngest daughter's escape. The other children were found and murdered. But she, our little one, survived. And through her, hope survived. Through her, you survived. The vision began to fade, but Elara caught glimpses of other moments, other queens, other trials. She saw Sarah Silverthorn, the first queen, uniting warring packs through sheer force of will. She saw Lioness Silverthorn negotiating a peace treaty that lasted a century. She saw Moira Silverthorn standing against an invasion of rogues that would have destroyed the packs. Each queen, different in personality and approach, but united in one thing. They led not through domination, but through connection, through understanding, through building bridges instead of walls. This is your inheritance, the chorus of voices sang. Not just power, but purpose. Not just authority, but responsibility. Will you accept it? Will you carry what we could not finish? Yes, Elara gasped. Yes, I will. Light exploded. She was back in the council chamber, collapsed on the floor, Kieran's arms around her. He held her against his chest, and she could feel his heart hammering, his breath coming fast. You're back, he said roughly. Thank the gods you're back. Lyanna knelt beside them, her expression unreadable. How long was she under? 20 minutes. 20 minutes, and I couldn't do anything. Kieran's voice cracked. Elara pushed herself upright, her body aching but whole. I saw them. All of them. The queens. She looked at Lyanna. And I understand now. The gift. It's not just sensing truth. It's understanding intention. Seeing beneath the surface to what drives people. She turned to Kieran, and suddenly she could feel it. His fear for her, his determination to protect her, the growing feelings he tried to hide. Not words or thoughts, exactly, but emotional truth laid bare. And beneath it all, something that made her breath catch. He was falling in love with her. Maybe had been since the moment they met. Fighting it, denying it, but unable to stop it. I know, she whispered. His eyes widened. Elara. The second trial, Lyanna interrupted. There's no time for rest. The blood moon rises in less than 24 hours, and you must complete all 3 trials before then. She held out the silver blade. Elara stood on shaking legs and took it. The metal was cold against her palm, but as she gripped it tighter, warmth began to spread. The blade pulsed with magic, and suddenly, the chamber vanished again. But this time, Elara wasn't thrown into the past. She was thrown into nightmare. She stood in darkness. Absolute. Suffocating. The kind of dark that pressed against your eyes and filled your lungs and made you forget light had ever existed. Hello. Her voice echoed, swallowed by the void. No answer. Then slowly shapes began to form. Shadows with red eyes. Wolves circling. Dozens of them. Hundreds. All watching her with hunger and hate. You're nothing, a voice hissed, familiar but wrong. She turned and saw Kieran, but his amber eyes had gone cold. A failed experiment. A broken bloodline. We don't need you. No one needs you. That's not real, Elara said, but fear clawed at her throat. More figures emerged. Lioness sneering. Weak. Unworthy. You'll fail just like the others. The priests and priestesses, shaking their heads in disappointment. Wolves she'd never met, laughing at her presumption. And then the worst. Her grandmother, eyes filled with sorrow. I died for nothing. You'll let them all down. You always do. No, Elara's voice broke. No, grandmother, please. You're alone, they chanted in unison. Always alone. Always failing. Give up. Die. It would be easier. The darkness pressed closer, suffocating. The wolves lunged. And Elara realized, this was her fear. The core of it. Not death itself, but dying alone, worthless, having accomplished nothing. Being forgotten. Being nothing. The blade in her hand pulsed again, and a memory surfaced, the Silver Queen's final words. Until the stars fall and the moon goes dark, I will love you. Love. Connection. That was the answer. I'm not alone, Elara said to the darkness. I carry 37 queens in my blood. I have Kieran's protection and loyalty. I have a purpose that matters. Her voice grew stronger. And even if I fail, even if I die tomorrow, I will have tried. I will have stood for something. That's not nothing. That's everything. The shadows recoiled. I am Elara Silverthorn, she declared, last daughter of the Silver Dynasty. And I am not afraid of you. She raised the blade and drove it into her palm. Blood welled, silver blood, glowing in the darkness. The light spread, pushing back shadows, banishing fears. The wolves dissolved. The cruel voices faded. And when the darkness finally broke, Elara stood alone in a space filled with silver light. The blade clattered to the ground. She was back in the council chamber again, hand bleeding, but healing already. The wound closed as she watched, leaving only a thin scar, a mark of the trial overcome. Kieran caught her as she swayed. 2 down, he murmured. 1 more. Lina approached with the crown, delicate, beautiful, terrible. The final trial. Are you ready? Elara's entire body ached. Her head throbbed. Exhaustion dragged at every limb. But she straightened her shoulders and nodded. I'm ready. Lina placed the crown of the first queen on Elara's head. And the world transformed one last time. Chapter 6. The crown was heavier than it looked. Not physically. It weighed almost nothing, crafted from magic and moonlight, but metaphysically. The moment it settled on Elara's head, she felt the weight of it pressing down on her soul. Every decision, every life, every consequence of leadership compressed into a single moment of crushing pressure. Judge and be judged, a voice whispered. Lead and be tested. Show us your heart, last daughter, and we will show you your future. The council chamber dissolved. Elara stood in a throne room. Not the ruined one she'd seen in visions, but something new. Rebuilt. Restored. Banners of all the great houses hung from the rafters. Silverthorn, Ashwood, Ironpelt, Stormfang, Shadowmere, Blackthorn, and others she didn't recognize. The 7 thrones were occupied by alphas in ceremonial robes, and at the center, Elara sat on the high throne. No, not sat. Would sit. This was the future. A possibility. The motion is before the council, she heard herself say, older, more confident, but unmistakably her own voice. House Blackthorn requests territory expansion into the unclaimed eastern forests. Arguments. The alphas debated, their voices overlapping. Elara listened, absorbing information, weighing options. She could feel the crown's magic working, showing her not just what they said, but what they meant. Their hidden agendas, their fears, their hopes. Blackthorn wanted the land for its resources, yes, but also to prove their house had been forgiven for the past. To earn back trust lost in the massacre centuries ago. Ironpelt opposed because they feared Blackthorn's ambition, remembering old betrayals. Stormfang remained neutral, calculating which side would benefit them most. And Shadowmere. Shadowmere watched everything with inscrutable eyes, their blood magic sensing currents Elara couldn't see. Enough, future Elara said, and silence fell. House Blackthorn, you may have the eastern forests on 3 conditions. First, you share the timber resources with House Ashwood, whose territories border yours. Second, you allow Shadowmere access to the sacred grove within for their rituals. Third, you accept a council representative to oversee development and ensure environmental protections. Blackthorn's Alpha, a woman with sharp features and calculating eyes, considered this. And if we refuse, then you remain where you are, and another house receives the opportunity. Future Elara's voice held no threat, just fact. I don't rule through force, Lady Morgana. I rule through fairness. Take the offer or leave it, but know that it's the best you'll receive. A long pause. Then Morgana bowed her head. We accept. The vision shifted. Now Elara stood in a nursery, the same one from the previous vision, but renovated. A child played on the floor, no more than 3 years old, with dark hair and amber eyes. Her eyes, Kieran's coloring. Future Elara knelt beside the child, helping build a tower of blocks. Higher, Mama, the little girl squealed. Careful, or it'll topple. But she added another block anyway, and when it fell, both of them laughed. Kieran entered, and the warmth that flooded through Elara was almost painful. He crossed the room, kissed his daughter's head, then his mate's lips, casual, comfortable, the affection of years. Council meeting ran long, he asked. Blackthorn negotiations. But we reached an agreement. Future Elara leaned into him. One less conflict to worry about. Only 700 more to go. But he said it with gentle humor. That's what I have you for. My voice of pessimistic reason. Someone has to balance your optimistic idealism. They watched their daughter play, and Elara felt the bond between them. Stronger than ever, tempered by time and trials, unbreakable. This was what the queens before her had promised. Partnership. Unity. Love that sustained rather than consumed. This is one path, the crown whispered. If you choose wisely. If you accept the bond. If you rule with wisdom and compassion. The vision shifted again, darker now. Elara stood on a battlefield. Bodies littered the ground. Wolves and humans alike, their blood staining snow red. Smoke rose from burning buildings in the distance, and the sky roiled with storm clouds. Future Elara stood at the center of the carnage, alone, wearing armor instead of ceremonial robes. Her eyes were cold. Hard. Nothing like the woman in the previous visions. This is what happens when you refuse help, a voice said. Elara turned to see a specter of the Silver Queen. Not the loving mother from the memories, but something darker. A warning. When you push away those who would stand with you. When pride becomes your master instead of your servant. I don't need anyone, future Elara said, her voice hollow. I'm strong enough alone. Are you? The specter gestured to the battlefield. You've won this battle through sheer power, but you've lost the loyalty of your people. They follow you out of fear, not love. And when you finally fall, and you will fall, no one will mourn. They'll celebrate their freedom from a tyrant. I kept them safe. You kept them controlled. The specter's eyes blazed. There's a difference. The Silverthorn gift is unity, child. Not domination. You've perverted everything our bloodline stood for. Future Elara's face crumpled, and for a moment, Elara saw the loneliness there. The isolation of a leader who'd pushed everyone away until only enemies remained. This is the other path, the crown whispered. If you choose pride over partnership. If you rule through strength alone. If you forget that power without love is just tyranny wearing a prettier face. The vision shifted one final time. Elara stood in darkness again, but this was different from the previous trial. This was peaceful, quiet, the darkness of a sky full of stars, infinite and beautiful. 2 futures, a voice said, not the crown now but something older. The collective consciousness of every Silverthorn queen who'd worn this crown before her. 2 possible paths. Which will you choose? The first, Elara said without hesitation. Love, partnership, unity. Even if it means surrendering some control. Even if it means admitting you cannot rule alone. Especially then. Elara thought of the diary entries, of the Silver Queen's advice. My ancestor wrote that strength lies in bringing people together, not dominating them. She was right. I can't. I won't. Repeat her mistakes by trying to do everything alone. And the bond. The prophecy. Elara took a breath. I won't force it. I won't let duty dictate my heart. But I won't deny what I feel either. If Kieran and I are meant to be bonded, it will be because we choose it freely, because we want it, not because some prophecy demands it. Silence. Then, you have chosen wisely, last daughter. The crown accepts you. Light exploded. Elara gasped as power flooded through her. Not overwhelming like the chalice, not painful like the blade, but completing. She felt her bloodline gift fully awaken. The ability to sense truth, yes, but also to inspire unity. To see the threads connecting people and pull them together. To lead not through force, but through understanding. The crown dissolved into silver light, then reformed as a delicate circlet. Smaller, more comfortable, but no less powerful. It settled on her head, warm and right. She opened her eyes. The council chamber came back into focus. Lioness stood before her, and for the first time, the priestess smiled, genuine, warm, approving. 3 trials completed. 3 gifts claimed. She bowed deeply. Welcome, Elara Silverthorn, Silver Queen of the ancient bloodline. May your reign be long and your wisdom deep. The other priests and priestesses echoed the bow. And Kieran stared at her with something like awe. The circlet glowed on her head, and her bloodline mark blazed on her shoulder, and every inch of her radiated power. But it was the expression on her face that had him transfixed. Not arrogance or coldness, but determination mixed with compassion. Strength tempered with kindness. She looked like a queen. How do you feel? He asked quietly. Like myself, Elara said, surprised by the truth of it. But more. Like I was only seeing part of the picture before, and now I can see the whole canvas. She looked at Lionel. What happens now? Now you rest. Tomorrow night, during the blood moon, we perform the coronation ceremony. A public declaration of your return. Every pack within 500 miles will send representatives. Some will celebrate. Others will challenge. You must be ready. And after that, Lionel's expression sobered. After that, you make the choice the prophecy demands. To bond or not to bond. To unite House Silverthorn and House Ashwood, or to rule alone. Her gaze flicked to Kieran. The blood moon is a time of great power. Bonds forged under its light are unbreakable, their magic amplified tenfold. But such bonds also require complete honesty, complete trust, complete surrender of the walls we build around our hearts. She swept from the chamber, leaving Elara and Kieran alone. They stared at each other across the space, and the weight of tomorrow hung between them. You don't have to decide now, Kieran said finally. I meant what I said before. I won't trap you. If you want to rule alone, I'll still protect you. Still stand with you. The bond isn't a requirement for my loyalty. I know. Elara crossed to him, and with her newly awakened gifts, she could feel his emotions clearly now. The love he tried to hide, the fear that she'd reject him, the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, she felt the same. But I also know what I saw in the trials. The future where I chose partnership was bright. The future where I chose isolation was darkness. She took his hand, and silver light sparked between them. I'm not saying yes to the bond, she continued. Not yet. I need to know it's real, not just prophecy or convenience. But I am saying, I want to know you, the real you, not just the guardian. I want to understand who you are beneath the duty and the vows. Kieran's thumb traced circles on her palm. And if you don't like what you find, then at least I'll know the truth. She smiled. And I'll still have a loyal ally. But Kieran, I don't think that's what I'll find. His breath caught. Elara, one day. Give me one day to settle into this power, to prepare for the coronation. Then we'll talk. Really talk. About everything. She squeezed his hand. Is that fair? More than fair. He raised her hand to his lips, pressing a kiss to her knuckles that sent heat racing through her. Rest, my queen. Tomorrow, everything changes. He left, and Elara stood alone in the chamber. No longer a frightened woman running from her heritage, but a queen beginning to understand her power. Outside the windows, the moon hung bright and full. Tomorrow night it would run red. And Elara Silverthorn would have to make the choice that would define her reign. Love or duty, partnership or isolation, the bond or independence. She touched the circlet on her head, feeling its magic pulse. Find a partner who sees your soul, not just your crown, her ancestor had written. Did Kieran see her soul? Did she see his? Tomorrow she would find out. Chapter 7. The day of the coronation dawned cold and bright. Elara woke to find her chambers transformed. The simple furnishings had been replaced with regal pieces. A four-poster bed draped in silver silk, wardrobes filled with gowns, and a vanity covered in jewelry that sparkled with more than mere gemstones. These were bloodline heirlooms, Lyanna explained when she arrived with breakfast. Pieces worn by queens throughout the centuries, each carrying its own magic. The emerald pendant grants clarity of speech, the priestess said, pointing to various items. The ruby bracelet enhances your natural charisma. The sapphire ring allows you to sense hostile intent within 100 yards. You'll wear them all for the coronation, both as symbols of your heritage and as practical protection. You expect trouble. It wasn't a question. I expect reality. Lyanna poured tea with practiced grace. Not everyone will celebrate your return, Elara. Some houses profited from Silverthorn's fall. Others have grown comfortable with the power vacuum. Your very existence threatens the status quo. There will be challenges tonight, political, magical, perhaps even physical. Elara's stomach churned, but she forced herself to eat. She'd need her strength. The morning passed in a blur of preparation. Servants came and went, fitting her for the coronation gown, a masterpiece of silver fabric that seemed woven from moonlight itself. The bloodline mark on her shoulder would be displayed prominently, and the circlet from last night's trial would be replaced during the ceremony with the actual crown of Silverthorn, larger and more ornate. It's been locked in the vaults since the massacre, Lyanna said as assistants worked on Elara's hair, waiting for an heir worthy of wearing it. Tonight, it returns to its rightful place. Around midday, Kieran appeared at her door. He looked different, formal, dressed in the ceremonial robes of House Ashwood. Dark fabric embroidered with silver wolves, a cloak clasped at his throat with an amber brooch. His hair had been pulled back, emphasizing the strong lines of his face, and when he met her eyes, Elara's breath caught. "May I speak with you?" he asked. Privately, Lyanna shooed the servants out, giving them a pointed look before departing herself. Alone, the tension between them crackled like lightning. "You look like a queen," Kieran said softly. "You look like you're about to attend a funeral." A ghost of a smile. "Nervous. I've been preparing for this moment my entire life, and now that it's here." He moved closer. "Elara, I need to tell you something before tonight. Before the ceremony and the politics and everything else." Her heart hammered. "What is it?" "The bond." He took a breath. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, about wanting to know the real me. And you're right, you deserve honesty." His amber eyes held hers. "The truth is, I didn't expect this. Any of this. When I set out to find you, it was duty, honor, completing my father's mission. But then I met you, and..." He paused, struggling with words. "You were supposed to be a symbol, a bloodline to protect. Instead, you're stubborn and brave and compassionate. You read old diaries and cry over ancestors you never met. You face trials that would break most alphas without complaint. You question everything, including yourself, which is exactly what a good leader should do." His voice roughened. "And somewhere between the attic and here, duty became something else. I fell in love with you, Elara. Not the queen. Not the prophecy. You." Elara's breath left her in a rush. "I'm not asking you to return it," Kieran continued quickly. "I'm not demanding the bond or using this as leverage. I needed you to know. Before tonight. Before you make your decision, you deserve to know where I stand." Silence stretched between them. Then Elara crossed the space and cupped his face in her hands. "You're an idiot." He blinked. "What?" "I've been falling for you since you pulled me onto that roof. Since you stood watch while I slept. Since you looked at me like I was worth dying for." She smiled through sudden tears. "But I was terrified it was just the prophecy. Just destiny forcing feelings that weren't real. Hearing you say it, that it's real for you." She didn't finish. She kissed him instead. Kieran made a sound between a groan and a sigh, his arms coming around her, pulling her close. The kiss was everything their first touch had promised. Fire and lightning, sweetness and hunger, a connection that went soul deep. Silver light erupted around them, the bond recognizing its potential mates, singing with possibility. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Kieran rested his forehead against hers. "Is that a yes to the bond?" he asked. "It's a yes to us," Elara corrected. "The bond is just the formality. I choose you, Kieran Ashwood. Not because of prophecy, but because when I look at my future, you're in it. Always." His smile could have lit the darkness. "Then we'll make the formal declaration tonight. During the coronation, in front of all the houses. United. Together, Elara agreed. A knock at the door interrupted them. Lionel's voice. It's time. The houses are gathering. Kieran pressed one more quick kiss to Elara's lips, then stepped back. I'll see you in the great hall, my queen. My alpha, she returned, testing the words, liking how they felt. He left, and Elara let the servants finish preparing her. The gown, the jewelry, the crown circlet replaced by the heavier, more ornate crown of Silverthorn. When she finally looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked like the queens from the visions. Powerful, regal, ready. One more thing, Lioness said, producing a small vial of silver liquid. A drop of this on your tongue will enhance your natural gifts for the next 6 hours. During the coronation, you'll be able to read the room better, sense threats more clearly. It's traditional for new monarchs. Elara hesitated. Is it safe? Would I give you something harmful on your coronation day? But Lionel's expression was unreadable. Trust your instincts. That's what the trials had taught her. Elara took the vial and pretended to drink, but only let a single drop touch her tongue. The rest she palmed, making it vanish into the folds of her gown. Lionel's eyes narrowed fractionally, but she said nothing. Come. The ceremony awaits. They processed through the keep, and as they walked, Elara heard the gathering crowd, hundreds of voices echoing off stone walls. Her newly awakened gifts let her sense their emotions. Curiosity, skepticism, hope, anger, fear. So many different reactions to her return. The doors to the great hall opened. Elara stepped through into chaos made orderly. The hall had been restored to its former glory. Banners hung from the rafters, torches blazed with silver flame, and 7 delegations stood in designated areas, each representing one of the great houses. Hundreds of wolves in human form, all dressed in their ceremonial finest, all watching as she entered. At the front, the 7 thrones had been arranged in a semicircle around a raised dais. And at the center of that dais, on a pedestal of moonstone, rested the true crown of Silverthorn, larger than the circlet she wore, more ornate, practically humming with accumulated power. Kieran stood near the Ashwood delegation, his eyes tracking her every move. Lionel guided Elara to the dais, then took her place with the lunar order. The hall fell silent. We gather on this blood moon, Lionel's voice rang out, to witness the return of House Silverthorn. 300 years have passed since the Silver Dynasty fell. 300 years of division, conflict, and struggle. Tonight that changes. Tonight we crown a new queen. She gestured and Elara stepped forward. Elara Silverthorn, last daughter of the ancient bloodline, you have passed the trials of awakening. You have proven your worth. You have claimed your power. Lionel lifted the crown from its pedestal. Do you swear to rule with wisdom and compassion? To unite the packs rather than divide them? To lead not through domination, but through understanding? I swear it, Elara said clearly. Do you accept the responsibility of your bloodline? The weight of your ancestors' legacy? The duty to protect all wolves, regardless of house or status? I accept it. Then by the power vested in me by the lunar order, and in the presence of the great houses, I crown you. Hold! The voice came from the Blackthorn delegation. A woman stepped forward, tall, sharp-featured, with eyes like chips of obsidian. Lady Morgana Blackthorn, Elara realized, recognizing her from the vision. On what grounds do you interrupt? Lionel demanded. On the grounds that this coronation is premature. Morgana's smile was cold. The Silver Dynasty fell because it grew weak. Complacent. If House Silverthorn wishes to reclaim its throne, it must prove that weakness has been purged from the bloodline. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. What do you propose? Elara asked, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart. A challenge. Trial by combat, as is our right under ancient law. Morgana's smile widened. If you're truly strong enough to lead us, prove it. Face me in the ring. Winner takes the crown. Gasps echoed through the hall. Kieran moved forward, his expression furious. This is outrageous. Lady Elara has already passed the trials of awakening, which test mystical ability, not physical prowess. Morgana's gaze never left Elara. Our world is brutal, Lord Ashwood. It requires leaders who can fight as well as think. If she cannot defend herself, how can she defend the packs? Elara's mind raced. This was a trap. Morgana was a seasoned warrior, trained from birth. Elara had passed mystical trials, yes, but she'd never fought in her life. The smart move would be to refuse, to invoke some other law, to find a way around this. But she could feel the room's energy. Many agreed with Morgana. They saw Elara as weak, untested. If she backed down now, she'd be ruling from a position of doubt. The visions from the trials surfaced. Two futures. One where she ruled through strength and wisdom combined. Another where power alone made her a tyrant. This wasn't about power. This was about proving she was willing to fight for what mattered. I accept, Elara said. Kieran's head snapped toward her. Elara, no. I accept, she repeated louder, addressing the entire hall. Lady Morgana, you're right. Leadership requires strength. So let's see whose strength is greater. Yours, honed through years of training, or mine, newly awakened and backed by 73 generations of queens. Morgana's smile turned predatory. To first blood, then. The loser yields. Agreed. The crowd erupted in excited chatter as servants rushed to clear a space in the center of the hall. Elara descended from the dais, removing the heavy outer layers of her gown until she wore only the underdress. Easier to move in. She removed the ceremonial jewelry too, except for the sapphire ring. Its warning magic might prove useful. Kieran caught her arm. You don't have to do this. There are other ways. No, there aren't. Not really. She met his eyes. Trust me. Trust my gifts. Trust that I know what I'm doing. I do trust you. That doesn't mean I'm not terrified. She squeezed his hand. Then be terrified quietly. I need to concentrate. A circle had been marked out with silver rope. Elara stepped inside, and Morgana entered from the opposite side. The Blackthorn Alpha rolled her shoulders, loosening muscles, looking completely at ease. Any final words? Morgana asked. Just one question, Elara replied. Why are you really doing this? I can sense your emotions, Lady Morgana. You're not angry or power-hungry. You're testing. Why? Surprise flickered across Morgana's face. Then respect. Because I need to know if you're worth following. My house betrayed yours 3 centuries ago. That stain remains. If I'm to bend my knee to a Silverthorn, I need to know she's strong enough to lead us through the backlash when other houses remember that betrayal. Then let's show them, Elara said. Lyanna raised her hand. Begin. Morgana attacked immediately, a blur of speed and power, shifting mid-leap into her wolf form. Massive, black-furred, fangs bared. Elara didn't try to match her physically. Instead, she called on her gifts. Truth, unity, understanding. She could sense Morgana's attack pattern, read her intentions, predict her movements. When the wolf lunged, Elara sidestepped. When claws swiped, she ducked. She moved like water, letting Morgana's strength flow past her without connecting. The crowd gasped. Morgana landed, circled, attacked again. Same result. Elara evaded with impossible precision, her gifts showing her exactly where to be and when. You can't dodge forever, Morgana snarled, voice distorted by her wolf form. I don't need to, Elara replied calmly. She'd been observing, learning, waiting for the right moment. And now she saw it. A pattern in Morgana's attacks, a tell in her movements. The next time Morgana lunged, Elara didn't dodge. She stepped in, close enough to touch the wolf's muzzle, and placed her hand against black fur. Silver light exploded. Not attacking magic. Something else. Something uniquely Silverthorn. The power to forge bonds, to connect, to understand. In an instant, Elara felt Morgana's truth. The guilt her house carried for the massacre. The desperate need to prove they'd changed. The hope that a strong Silverthorn could unite the packs again. The fear that Elara would fail and doom them all to endless conflict. I see you, Elara whispered. I understand. Morgana shifted back to human form, staggering. How? Because that's my gift. Not just sensing truth, but sharing it. Building bridges. Connecting souls. Elara extended her hand. You don't need to test me through combat, Lady Morgana. Ask me anything. Feel my truth. Know that I see your house's past, acknowledge its pain, and offer you a path forward. Not through violence, but through trust. The hall held its collective breath. Morgana stared at the offered hand. Then slowly she took it. Silver light surged again, gentler this time. And in that connection, Elara shared her visions. The future where houses united, where old betrayals were forgiven but not forgotten, where strength came from unity rather than domination. When the light faded, tears streaked Morgana's face. First blood was never the point, she said hoarsely. You're right. I needed to know your heart. She dropped to one knee. House Blackthorn acknowledges your claim, Queen Elara. We bend our knee not out of fear or obligation, but out of hope. Let us well. I will, Elara promised. All of us. Together. One by one, the other delegations knelt. Ironpelt, Stormfang, Shadowmere, and the others. Even those who'd come skeptical left moved by what they'd witnessed. Only one group remained standing. House Ashwood. Kieran stepped forward, and Elara's heart raced. House Ashwood has served Silverthorn for generations, he said, his voice carrying through the hall. We've guarded its secrets, protected its heirs, and kept faith when others called us fools. Tonight, that service takes a new form. He knelt, but not in the formal pledge of a subject to a ruler. He knelt as an equal, as a partner, extending his hand. If you'll have me, he said, not just as guardian, but as mate, as alpha to your queen, as the second half of the prophecy. Elara crossed to him, taking his hand. I'll have you, Kieran Ashwood, not because prophecy demands it, but because my heart does. Silver light erupted, brighter than before, as the bond began to form. Lyanna rushed forward, seizing the moment. Then let the coronation and the bonding ceremony merge. Witness as two become one, as prophecy becomes reality, as the Silver Dynasty rises again. She placed the crown of Silverthorn on Elara's head. And in the same motion, she bound Elara and Kieran's hands with a silver cord, speaking words in an ancient language that thrummed with power. The bond snapped into place. Elara gasped as Kieran's presence flooded her. Not overwhelming, but completing. She could feel his love, his loyalty, his strength. And he could feel hers. Their souls merged, their powers amplified, their futures intertwined. Outside, the blood moon reached its peak, bathing the keep in crimson light. And in that moment, under that moon, with the great houses bearing witness, Elara Silverthorn became queen and Kieran Ashwood became her bonded mate. The dynasty had returned. The prophecy was fulfilled. And the real work was about to begin. Chapter 8. The celebration lasted until dawn. Elara stood on the balcony of her chambers, watching the sun rise over the mountains, still wearing the crown of Silverthorn. The bond with Kieran hummed in her chest, a constant, warm presence that both thrilled and unsettled her. She could feel him even now, 3 floors below in the war room, dealing with the logistics of housing so many visiting delegations. Tired, his voice echoed in her mind. Not words exactly, but intention. Emotion translated to thought. Exhausted. You. Same. But satisfied. She felt his pleasure, his pride in how she'd handled the challenge. You were magnificent. We were magnificent, she corrected, and felt his pleasure deepen. The bond was still new, still strange. They were learning its nuances. When they could sense each other's emotions, when they could communicate mentally, what boundaries existed. It was intimate in ways Elara hadn't anticipated, and part of her was still adjusting to never being truly alone anymore. But she wouldn't trade it. Not for anything. A knock at her door pulled her from her thoughts. Enter. Lyanna swept in, looking remarkably fresh despite the all-night celebration. The delegations are preparing to depart. Most will leave by midday, though Lady Morgana has requested a private audience before she goes. Of course. What about the others? Ironpelt swears loyalty, but remains wary. Stormfang is calculating advantages. Shadowmere. Lyanna paused. Lord Corvus asked to speak with you as well. Privately. Something in her tone made Elara's instincts prickle. You don't trust him. I don't trust anyone from House Shadowmere. They practice blood magic, Elara, forbidden arts that most houses abandoned centuries ago. Their loyalties are complex. But they knelt last night, because it was politically expedient. Whether that loyalty holds when tested remains to be seen. Lyanna moved to the window, standing beside Elara. You performed admirably yesterday. The way you handled Morgana's challenge, the bond with Kieran, it was everything we hoped for. But the hard part begins now. Ruling. Surviving. Lyanna's ice-chip eyes met hers. You united the houses for one night, under one moon, with prophecy and magic on your side. But tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, they'll remember old grudges. Old competitions. The unity you forged is fragile. One wrong move could shatter it. Elara absorbed this, feeling the weight of the crown on her head. Literal and metaphorical. What would you advise? Consolidate your power. Choose a council of advisors from different houses to show impartiality. Address the territory disputes that have festered for decades. And most importantly, she hesitated. Produce an heir. Soon. Heat flooded Elara's cheeks. We've been bonded for less than 12 hours. Which means you have the rest of your life, yes. But perception matters. The houses need to see continuity. The promise of a dynasty that will last beyond your reign. It doesn't have to happen immediately, but it should happen within the year. The clinical way Lyanna discussed it made Elara's stomach twist, but she understood the political reality. I'll discuss it with Kieran. Speaking of whom, he's finished with the war room. He'll join you shortly. Lyanna headed for the door, then paused. One more thing. Be careful with Lord Corvus. Shadowmere plays long games. Whatever he wants, it's not as simple as it seems. She left, and moments later Kieran appeared. He looked tired too, shadows under his eyes, hair disheveled from running his hands through it. But his smile when he saw her was pure warmth. He crossed to her, pulling her into his arms, and Elara melted into the embrace. I could feel your exhaustion through the bond, he murmured against her hair. You should rest. So should you. Later. First, we have audiences to grant. But he didn't release her, and Elara didn't pull away. They stood together, watching the sun climb higher, drawing strength from each other's presence. I love you, she thought, testing the mental connection. I love you too, came his immediate response, and the bond glowed warmer. Eventually, duty called. They dressed in formal attire. Elara in a gown of silver and white, Kieran in his Ashwood ceremonial robes, and made their way to the throne room. The high throne had been moved from the council chamber to here, and a second throne, slightly smaller but no less elegant, had been placed beside it for Kieran. Partners. Equals. United in rule. Lady Morgana arrived first, accompanied by 2 guards. She knelt formally before approaching the thrones. Your Majesty. Lord Ashwood. I wanted to speak before my departure. Rise, Lady Morgana. What's on your mind? Elara gestured for her to approach. Morgana stood, and Elara noticed she looked older in the morning light. Lines of worry etched around her eyes, gray threading through her dark hair. I wanted to clarify House Blackthorn's position. Last night's challenge was genuine. I needed to know your strength. But it was also political theater. Explain, Kieran said, his tone neutral but his body tense. There are factions within my house who don't want reconciliation, who believe the old ways, dominance through strength, expansion through conquest, are the only ways. By challenging you publicly and having you defeat me through Silverthorn gifts rather than brute force, I've given the moderates ammunition. Morgana's expression was weary. It won't end the internal conflict, but it will help. Elara's gift let her sense the truth in Morgana's words, and the pain beneath them. You're fighting your own people. Every day. Morgana's smile was bitter. That's what happens when your house carries 3 centuries of betrayal. Some want redemption. Others want to finish what our ancestors started, complete domination of the territories. I'm trying to steer us toward the former, but it's like redirecting a river with my bare hands. What do you need from me? Elara asked. Patience. And when the time comes, when my internal enemies make their move, I need you to remember that not all of Blackthorn supports them. Don't punish the entire house for the actions of extremists. I won't, Elara promised. But Morgana, if you need help, ask. That's what this unity is supposed to mean. We support each other. Morgana looked surprised, then grateful. I'll remember that, Your Majesty. Thank you. She departed, and Elara slumped slightly in her throne. How many other houses have similar internal conflicts? All of them, Kieran said grimly. Unity sounds beautiful in theory. In practice, it means managing dozens of competing factions, all with different agendas. Welcome to ruling. Lord Corvus Shadowmere arrived next, and Elara immediately understood Lyanna's wariness. He was tall, gaunt, with pale skin and eyes so dark they seemed to absorb light. He moved like a shadow himself, fluid, silent, somehow present and absent simultaneously. His robes were deep purple, embroidered with symbols that made Elara's eyes hurt if she looked at them too long. Blood magic symbols, she realized. Your Majesty. Lord Ashwood. His voice was a whisper that somehow filled the throne room. Congratulations on your coronation. And your bonding. Quite the spectacle. Lord Corvus, Elara said carefully. What can we do for House Shadowmere? It's more what we can do for you. He glided closer, and Elara felt Kieran tense beside her. House Shadowmere possesses knowledge that has been misunderstood for centuries. We are not the villains other houses paint us as. We simply pursue avenues of magic they lack the courage or ability to explore. Blood magic, Kieran said flatly. Forbidden magic. Forbidden by whom? The same council that collapsed 300 years ago. Corvus's smile was cold. Your Majesty, you've just reclaimed a dynasty. You're rewriting the rules. Perhaps it's time to reconsider which magics are truly dangerous, and which have simply been demonized by those who fear them. Elara's gifts flared, reading his intentions. He wanted something. Access to the Silverthorn archives, she sensed. Ancient texts. Forbidden knowledge. What are you really asking for, Lord Corvus? His eyes gleamed with approval at her directness. Smart. I like that. Very well. House Silverthorn's library contains texts on blood magic that were sealed after the massacre. Spells and rituals that could benefit all the packs if properly understood. I'm asking for access to those texts. For research purposes. Absolutely not, Kieran growled. Why not? Corvus's gaze never left Elara. Are you afraid of knowledge? Afraid that understanding blood magic might reveal truths about your own bloodline's powers? That struck a nerve. Elara's Silverthorn gifts, the ability to sense truth, to forge connections, had always felt slightly different from standard werewolf abilities. More mystical. More. Blood magic and Silverthorn magic are related, aren't they? She said slowly. Corvus's smile widened. Very good. Yes, Your Majesty. The Silver Dynasty's gifts were born from blood magic, refined over generations until they became hereditary rather than ritual-based. But the foundation remains. You are, in essence, a practitioner of blood magic whether you acknowledge it or not. Kieran stood, radiating menace. That's enough. You've made your request. The answer is no. The archives remain sealed. A pity. Corvus didn't seem bothered. But I understand. New rulers must be cautious. Perhaps in time, when you're more secure in your power, we can revisit this conversation. He bowed. Until then, House Shadowmere pledges its loyalty. Such as it is. He left, and the throne room felt lighter without his presence. He's dangerous, Kieran said immediately. We need to watch him. I know, but he wasn't lying. Not entirely. Elara touched her bloodline mark, feeling it pulse. What if he's right? What if Silverthorn magic and blood magic are connected? Does it matter? You don't need to understand the origin of your gifts to use them. Maybe not. But knowledge is power, Kieran. And if I'm going to lead effectively, I need to understand everything about my bloodline, including the uncomfortable parts. He moved to her throne, kneeling so they were eye level. Promise me you won't do anything reckless. No secret research, no exploring forbidden magic alone. I promise. We face everything together, remember? Together, he echoed and kissed her gently. The rest of the audiences passed without incident. Various House representatives pledged support, requested trade agreements, and offered political alliances. By midday, most of the delegations had departed, and the keep returned to something approaching normal. Elara and Kieran retreated to her chambers. Their chambers now, she supposed, since they were bonded. Servants had already moved Kieran's belongings in, and seeing his clothes hanging beside hers, his weapons displayed near hers, made the reality of their union sink in deeper. Strange, isn't it? Kieran said, watching her. Yesterday we were separate people. Today we're bonded for life. Elara sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly exhausted. No going back. Do you want to go back? No. She met his eyes. But it's still an adjustment. Feeling your presence constantly. Knowing you can sense my emotions. Having my thoughts potentially accessible to you. Kieran sat beside her. The bond respects boundaries. You can shield your thoughts if you want privacy. And I'll do the same. We don't have to share everything. Just what we choose to. Show me how. He spent the next hour teaching her the mental techniques. Visualizing walls, creating private spaces in her mind, opening doors when she wanted to communicate. It was exhausting work, but by the end, Elara felt more in control. Better? Kieran asked. Much. Thank you. She leaned against him, and he wrapped an arm around her shoulders. They sat in comfortable silence, the bond humming between them, until Elara remembered Lyanna's earlier comment. She thinks we should have children. Soon. Kieran went still. Do you want children? Eventually. Not right now. I'm barely adjusting to being queen. But eventually, yes. She looked up at him. You? Yes. I'd love to have children with you. A family. His expression softened. But there's no rush. Despite what Lyanna says, we have time. Do we? Elara gestured vaguely toward the window. With Blackthorn's internal conflicts, Shadowmere's ambitions, and whatever other challenges are coming. Time feels like a luxury we don't have. Then we make time. We steal moments. We build a life even while managing crises. Kieran turned her face toward his. That's what the bond gives us. The ability to be partners in everything, not just politics. We'll figure out the balance. Elara kissed him, letting the bond flare with affection and gratitude. I love you. I love you too. They spent the rest of the day in their chambers, alternating between discussing politics and simply being together, learning each other in ways that went beyond the bond. Favorite foods, childhood stories, dreams for the future. It was perfect, which meant, of course, that disaster was inevitable. The attack came at midnight. Elara woke to Kieran's hand over her mouth and his voice urgent in her mind. Don't move. Don't make a sound. Intruders in the keep. Her heart hammered as she listened. Footsteps in the corridor outside. Whispered voices. The subtle snick of a door being picked. Kieran moved with lethal silence, grabbing weapons from their displays. He tossed Elara a silver dagger, short, easy to handle, and positioned himself between her and the door. How many? She asked through the bond. 6. Maybe more. His mental voice was ice cold. They got past the ward somehow. The door burst open. Assassins poured through, masked, armed, moving with professional efficiency. Kieran met them with brutal force, his blade flashing in the moonlight. Blood sprayed. Bodies fell. But more kept coming. Elara's sapphire ring blazed hot. A warning. She spun just as an assassin lunged from the balcony window, having scaled the outside wall. Her dagger came up instinctively, catching the attacker's blade. Magic sparked, and the assassin hissed, stumbling back. Silverthorn power. Her bloodline mark burned hot as defensive magic activated. Legacy protection woven into her very DNA. The assassin tried again, and this time Elara didn't just defend. She attacked. Not with the blade, but with her gifts. She touched the assassin's arm and poured truth into the connection. You don't want to do this. Someone sent you, someone is using you, but this isn't your fight. The assassin froze, mask slipping to reveal a young woman's face, confused, conflicted. Who sent you? Elara demanded. I don't. The woman's eyes widened. Shadowmere. Lord Corvus paid us to. She never finished. Another assassin drove a blade through her back, silencing her permanently. Kieran roared, taking down the killer with a savage strike. Within seconds, the room was clear. All the assassins either dead or fled. But the damage was done. Shadowmere, Elara breathed. He attacked us the same day he pledged loyalty. We need to lock down the keep. Now. Kieran was already moving, throwing on clothes. And we need to send word to the other houses. If Shadowmere is making a move. Alarms began to wail throughout the keep. Lyanna burst into their chambers, guards at her back. The vaults have been breached. Someone used the attack as a distraction to access the Silverthorn archives. Elara's blood ran cold. The blood magic texts. Gone. All of them. Lyanna's face was pale with fury. Corvus got what he wanted after all. Kieran slammed his fist against the wall. How? The vaults are protected by centuries-old wards. Wards keyed to Silverthorn blood, Lyanna said grimly. But the new queen's blood is barely bound to them. They're still adjusting to her signature. Shadowmere must have had someone with enough Silverthorn ancestry, distant but present, to fool the wards temporarily. A descendant of the massacre survivors, Elara realized. Someone from the hidden bloodline. Exactly. And now they have texts that should never see daylight again. Lyanna looked at Elara. We need to act. Fast. Before Shadowmere uses whatever knowledge they've stolen to destabilize everything you've built. Elara met Kieran's eyes through the bond, drawing strength from his presence. Then she straightened her shoulders and lifted her chin. Send word to all the houses. Emergency council in 3 days. And find Lord Corvus Shadowmere. Her voice was ice. He has a lot to answer for. The celebration was over. The real fight for the dynasty's survival had begun. Chapter 9. The war room buzzed with tension. Maps covered the massive oak table, marked with territories, pack movements, and suspected Shadowmere locations. Elara stood at the head, Kieran at her right, Lyanna at her left. Around them, representatives from the loyal houses, Ashwood, Ironpelt, Stormfang, argued strategies while scribes took notes. We should strike immediately, Lord Theron Ironpelt rumbled, his massive frame barely contained by his chair. Hit Shadowmere's stronghold before they can use whatever they stole. And risk open war? Lady Vera Stormfang countered. The Stormfang Alpha was small, fox-like, her mind as sharp as her features. We don't know how many houses might secretly support Shadowmere. An attack could fracture the alliance Queen Elara just built. So we do nothing. Theron's fist slammed the table. Let them study forbidden magic and use it against us? We do something smart. Elara cut through the argument. All eyes turned to her. We can't afford open warfare, not yet. Our unity is too fragile. But we can't sit idle either. She gestured to the maps. Lord Corvus's stronghold is in the Shadow Peaks. Isolated, defensible, but also cut off from easy reinforcement. If we lay siege, we force him to either negotiate or reveal his hand. A siege takes time, Vera observed. Time for him to work with those texts. Then we make it a race. Elara looked at Lyanna. You said Shadowmere took texts on blood magic. What specifically? Rituals for enhancing supernatural abilities. Spells for breaking bloodline bonds. And, Lyanna hesitated. Instructions for a ritual called the Eclipse Rebirth. Silence fell. What is that? Kieran asked quietly. A forbidden rite that allows someone to steal another's bloodline gifts. The caster must have compatible blood, distant relation to their target, and the ritual requires immense power. If successful, they can absorb the target's abilities, leaving the victim powerless or dead. Horror washed through the bond from Kieran. He's going to try to steal Elara's gifts. Or create his own Silverthorn, Vera said slowly. If he has someone with distant Silverthorn blood, the same person who broke the wards, he could use the ritual to amplify their abilities. Create a rival dynasty. Elara's mind raced. How long does the ritual take to prepare? Weeks. Maybe a month. It requires rare components, specific alignments, and extensive preparation. Then we have time. Elara began marking the map. We send 3 teams. The first lays siege to Shadow Peaks, visible, obvious, drawing Corvus's attention. The second searches for the ritual components. If we can deny him what he needs, we buy more time. And the third. She looked at Kieran. The third infiltrates the stronghold and recovers the texts. A suicide mission, Theron growled. Shadow Peaks is impenetrable. Not to someone with Silverthorn gifts and an Ashwood bond. Kieran's expression was grim but determined. We can do it. Together. Absolutely not, Lyanna snapped. You're the queen and her consort, the dynasty's only hope. If you die, everything falls apart. If we don't recover those texts, everything falls apart anyway. Elara met the priestess's gaze steadily. You said it yourself, Corvus is playing a long game. He won't stop with one theft. He'll keep pushing until he either controls the dynasty or destroys it. We end this now, while we have the advantage. What advantage? Lyanna demanded. He has fortifications, loyal followers, stolen knowledge. And we have the bond. Elara took Kieran's hand, letting silver light spark between them. The prophecy said our union would restore the dynasty. Maybe this is how. Maybe we're meant to face this together, our powers combined in ways Corvus can't anticipate. Vera studied them with calculating eyes. It could work. Shadowmere doesn't expect the queen herself to lead a covert operation. They'll focus defenses on repelling a siege. A small team, moving quietly, using Silverthorn truth sensing to navigate defenses. She nodded slowly. Yes, it could work. Or it could be exactly what Corvus wants, Lyanna warned. Lure you into his stronghold, trigger the ritual with you as the target instead of some distant relation. You'd be delivering yourself to him. Then we'll be ready for that too. Kieran's voice was steel. Set the siege. Send the component hunters. And let us do what we do best. Face impossible odds together. The strategy was set. Over the next 3 days, Elara and Kieran prepared while the siege force assembled. Theron would lead the visible army. Hundreds of wolves surrounding Shadow Peaks, making demands, creating spectacle. Vera's agents would hunt for ritual components across the territories. And Elara and Kieran, along with 4 elite Ashwood warriors, would slip through the siege lines under cover of darkness. You should take more soldiers, Lyanna argued on the evening before departure. 4 warriors isn't enough. It's all we can move quietly, Kieran countered. He was checking weapons, his movements efficient and deadly. More than that, and we risk detection. Elara was studying maps of Shadow Peaks. Layouts stolen by Stormfang spies, showing tunnels, guard rotations, and the location of Corvus's private chambers where the texts were likely kept. There, she pointed to a service entrance. It's heavily warded, but if my Silverthorn blood can temporarily fool the vault protections, it might work on these too. Might, Lioness stressed. This whole plan is built on maybes and possibilities. Then it's perfect for us. Elara smiled grimly. We've been defying odds since the day we met. Lioness sighed, then pulled a small amulet from her robes. Take this. It's keyed to the keep's wards. If you're in mortal danger, break it. The magic will transport you back here instantly. Only one person, Kieran noted. Yes, so use it wisely. Lioness looked between them. I don't approve of this plan, but if you're determined to go through with it, at least give yourselves an escape route. Elara took the amulet, securing it around her neck. Thank you. That night, she and Kieran lay together in their chambers, neither sleeping. The bond thrummed between them, stronger now, deepened by days of working in perfect synchronization. Nervous? Kieran asked quietly. Terrified, Elara admitted. What if we fail? What if Lion is right and we're walking into a trap? Then we walk into it together. He pulled her closer. I meant what I said at the coronation. Whatever comes, we face it side by side. Even death. Especially death. Though I'd prefer we avoid that particular outcome. Elara laughed despite her fear. Agreed. They made love that night with desperate intensity, the bond flaring bright as their bodies joined. Every touch was a promise. Every kiss a vow. When they finally slept, it was tangled together, two souls bound so tightly that separation seemed impossible. Dawn came too quickly. The infiltration team assembled in the armory, Kieran and Elara, plus 4 Ashwood elite. Marcus, a veteran warrior with scars covering his arms. Celine, a tracker whose wolf form could blend into shadows. And twins Cade and Ren, demolitions experts skilled in bypassing magical wards. Rules are simple, Kieran told them as they prepared. Stay quiet. Stay together. If we're discovered, we don't fight unless absolutely necessary, we run. Our mission is recovery, not combat. Understood. For nods. They departed before sunrise, moving through the mountains via paths known only to Ashwood scouts. The journey to Shadow Peaks took 2 days of hard travel, and with every mile, Elara felt the weight of what they were attempting grow heavier. They arrived at the siege perimeter after dark on the second day. Theron's forces had done their job perfectly. Bonfires blazed around the fortress, wolves howled challenges, and the entire front of Shadow Peaks bristled with defensive magic. All attention focused there, which meant the back entrance was nearly unguarded. Nearly. 2 sentries, Celine whispered after scouting ahead. Both experienced. They'll sense us if we get too close. Then we don't get close. Elara activated her Silverthorn gifts, extending her awareness. She could feel the sentries' emotions, boredom, mostly, with underlying tension from the siege. She focused on that boredom, amplifying it, making it hard to focus, encouraging drowsiness. Both sentries yawned. Now, Kieran breathed. They moved as one, Marcus and Ren taking down the sentries with precise strikes that left them unconscious but alive. Cade began working on the entrance wards while Elara placed her hand on the door, feeling for the blood magic locks. Open, she willed, pushing her Silverthorn signature into the magic. The wards flickered, confused. Her blood was close enough to activate them, but not quite right, like a key that almost fit. Elara pushed harder, and finally, click, the door swung open. They slipped inside Shadow Peaks. The interior was dark, lit only by occasional glowstones. They moved through service corridors, avoiding main halls where guards patrolled. Celine led, her supernatural senses alert for danger. Cade and Ren neutralized the few wards they encountered. And Elara navigated, her truth sensing showing her which paths were safe, which were trapped. It was working. Too well. Something's wrong, Elara whispered to Kieran through the bond. We should have encountered more resistance. I know. Stay alert. They reached the private chamber's level without incident. According to Stormfang intelligence, Corvus's study was at the end of a long hallway, protected by the strongest wards in the fortress. The hallway was empty. Completely, suspiciously empty. It's a trap, Marcus said flatly. Of course it's a trap, Kieran replied. The question is whether we spring it or retreat. Elara studied the corridor with her gifts, sensing nothing. No hostile intent. No hidden enemies. Just emptiness, which was somehow worse. We've come this far, she decided. Cade, Ren, can you disable the wards on that door? The twins exchanged glances, then nodded. They approached cautiously, examining the magical defenses with expert eyes. "It's complex," Ren muttered. "Triple-layered with a bloodlock at the core. Can you break it? Given time, maybe. But it'll alert everyone in the fortress. Then we do it fast." Elara looked at her team. "Once those wards fall, we grab the texts and run. No hesitation. No second-guessing. Understood." Agreement all around. Cade and Ren went to work. Magic sparked and hissed as they carefully dismantled the ward layers. 5 minutes passed. 10. 15. Then, "Got it," Cade declared. The door's wards dissolved, and it swung open. Corvus sat at a desk inside, smile cold as winter. "Right on schedule. Welcome, Your Majesty. I've been waiting for you." Chapter 10. The study was a trap made of shadows and silver light. Corvus rose from his desk with fluid grace, and Elara's gifts blazed a warning. But too late. The door slammed shut behind them, wards reactivating with a sound like breaking glass. Marcus lunged for Corvus, but shadows erupted from the floor, wrapping around the warrior's limbs, freezing him mid-strike. More shadows caught Celine, Cade, and Ren, binding them, rendering them helpless. Only Elara and Kieran remained free, standing in a circle of silver light that pulsed from their bond. "Impressive," Corvus observed. "The bond protects you from my blood magic. I wondered if it would." He circled them slowly, a predator assessing prey. "Did you really think I wouldn't anticipate your infiltration? That I'd leave my stronghold vulnerable? You wanted us to come," Elara said, her mind racing. "This was the plan all along." "Of course. The siege, the stolen texts, even the clumsy assassination attempt. All carefully orchestrated to bring you here to this moment." He gestured, and the shadows parted to reveal a ritual circle carved into the floor. Complex sigils glowing with dark light. "You see, Your Majesty, I don't want to steal your gifts. I want something far more valuable." "What?" Kieran demanded, positioning himself between Corvus and Elara. "I want to break your bond." The words hit like a physical blow. Through their connection, Elara felt Kieran's shock mirror her own. "The Eclipse rebirth ritual," Corvus continued, "has many applications. Stealing power is one. But severing bonds, especially prophesied bonds that hold dynasties together, that's its true purpose. You see, the Silver Dynasty's strength has always been unity. One queen, one mate, one unbreakable bond that inspires others to follow. But what happens when that bond shatters? When the queen and her consort are torn apart, their connections severed, their powers divided. "The dynasty falls," Elara whispered, understanding dawning with horrible clarity. "That was always your goal. Not to steal power, but to destroy the foundation." "Exactly." Corvus's smile widened. "With your bond broken, the other houses will see weakness. They'll turn on each other, and in the chaos, Shadowmere will rise. We'll offer stability, order, for a price. And the age of blood magic will return." "You're insane," Kieran snarled. "The other houses would never follow you. They will when they have no choice. When the alternative is endless war." Corvus raised his hand, and the ritual circle blazed brighter. "Now, shall we begin? The blood moon rises again tonight. Weaker than before, but still potent enough for my purposes. I'll sever your bond, scatter your gifts, and leave you alive just long enough to watch everything you've built crumble." Shadows lunged. But Elara was ready. She'd been sensing the room's energy while Corvus spoke, reading the patterns of his magic, understanding his technique. And she'd realized something crucial. Blood magic and Silverthorn gifts shared the same source. Which meant she could manipulate it. Kieran, the bond, open it completely. "What?" Through their connection, she felt his confusion. "Elara, that's dangerous." "Trust me." He did. The bond between them exploded open. No barriers, no shields, just pure connection. Their souls merged completely, their powers combining, amplifying exponentially. And Elara reached through that combined strength into Corvus's blood magic. The shadows attacking them froze, then turned on their caster. Corvus's eyes widened. "Impossible. You can't." "You were right," Elara said, her voice resonating with power. "Silverthorn magic is blood magic, refined and purified, which means I can use it, control it, turn it against you." She pushed, and the ritual circle's magic inverted. Instead of breaking bonds, it forged them, connecting Elara to everyone in the room, even Corvus. She felt his truth laid bare. Ambition, yes, but also fear. Fear of a united dynasty, that would stamp out Shadowmere's forbidden practices. Fear of irrelevance. Fear of being forgotten. You don't want power, she said softly. You want acknowledgement. Recognition that your magic has value. Don't presume to know me, Corvus hissed, but his shadows wavered. I don't presume. I know. My gift shows me truth, remember? Elara stepped forward, Kieran moving with her, their bond a shield and a weapon. You're brilliant, Lord Corvus. Your understanding of magic is extraordinary, but you've twisted it toward destruction instead of creation, toward isolation instead of unity. Because your precious unity excludes us. The words burst out, raw and angry. Shadowmere has been shunned for centuries. Called monsters, forbidden from councils, treated as threats. What choice did we have but to embrace what we were accused of being? You had the choice to prove them wrong. Elara's voice was firm, but not unkind. And you still do. She extended her hand. The gesture was insane. Reckless. Corvus had just tried to destroy her bond, had kidnapped her warriors, had orchestrated weeks of manipulation and violence. Every rational part of Elara's mind screamed that this was foolish. But her gift whispered different. It showed her the truth beneath Corvus's actions. A man who'd spent so long being treated as dangerous that he'd become what they feared, but who still remembered, somewhere deep, what it felt like to be accepted. Join us, Elara said. Not as a subordinate, but as an equal. Bring Shadowmere's knowledge to the council, all of it, including blood magic. We'll study it together, understand it, determine what's truly dangerous and what's simply misunderstood. No more exile. No more suspicion. Just honest cooperation. You trust me? Corvus's voice dripped with skepticism. After this, I'd give you a chance to be worthy of trust. Elara kept her hand extended. That's all anyone can ask for. A chance. Silence stretched. The ritual circle pulsed, waiting for direction. The shadows holding Marcus, Celine, Cade, and Ren remained, but loosened slightly. Through the bond, Elara felt Kieran's support. His trust in her judgment, his willingness to follow her lead even when it seemed impossible. Finally, Corvus laughed. Not his cold, calculated laugh from before, but something genuine. Almost sad. You're either the bravest queen I've ever met or the most foolish. He stared at her extended hand. But perhaps that's what true leadership requires. The courage to offer grace to enemies. He took her hand. The shadows dissolved. The ritual circle's magic dissipated harmlessly. And in the moment of contact, Elara's gift flooded through Corvus. Not forcing anything, just showing him what unity could mean. A future where Shadowmere wasn't feared but respected. Where blood magic was studied responsibly. Where his house found its place among equals. When she released his hand, tears tracked down Corvus's pale face. I'll need time, he said hoarsely, to convince my house. To change centuries of resentment and isolation. It won't be easy. Nothing worth doing is, Elara replied. But we'll help. That's what this dynasty is supposed to be. All of us helping each other become better. Corvus nodded slowly, then released the bonds holding the Ashwood warriors. Marcus immediately moved to Elara's side, protective, suspicious. Stand down, Kieran ordered quietly. Lord Corvus has agreed to negotiate. The texts, Elara said. The ones you stole. Where are they? Corvus gestured to a cabinet. Here, unharmed. I needed them for research, but I swear on my bloodline that I performed no rituals. Yet, Cade retrieved the texts, verifying they were intact. Elara could feel truth in Corvus's words. He hadn't lied. Keep them, she said, and felt shock ripple through her team. Not permanently, but keep them long enough to compile your research, your understanding of blood magic's potential benefits. Present your findings to the council in 3 months. If what you've learned can help the pack safely, we'll consider lifting the prohibition on blood magic study. And if I betray this trust, then we'll have been fools, and you'll have confirmed every suspicion about Shadowmere. Elara's voice hardened. But I'll also hunt you down personally, and this time I won't offer mercy. Corvus smiled. Genuine this time, with something like respect. Fair enough. 3 months. I'll have my research compiled. They left Shadow Peaks without further incident. Theron's siege forces were stunned when Elara and her team emerged from the fortress with Lord Corvus walking beside them. Not as a prisoner, but as something approaching an ally. The journey back to Silver Peak Keep took 3 days, during which Elara and Kieran worked through what had happened. The bond between them was stronger than ever, tested and proven unbreakable. You took a massive risk, Kieran said on the second night, as they camped under the stars. Offering Corvus a chance like that. I know, but my gift showed me it was the right choice. He needed acknowledgement more than punishment. Elara leaned against him. Was I wrong? I don't know yet. Ask me in 3 months. But he kissed her temple. You're going to be an interesting queen. Unpredictable. Idealistic. Says the man who bonded with me knowing exactly how idealistic I am. True. I clearly have terrible judgment. They laughed, and the sound echoed across the mountains. Light, genuine, free. When they returned to Silver Peak Keep, Lyanna was waiting with a mixture of relief and fury. You took years off my life, the priestess declared. Disappearing into Shadow Peaks, emerging with Corvus as an ally. Do you have any idea how that looks? Like a queen who chooses unity over vengeance? Elara suggested. Like a queen who's either brilliant or mad. Perhaps both, Kieran offered, earning a glare from Lyanna and a laugh from Elara. The next 3 months were a whirlwind of activity. Corvus presented his research as promised. Detailed analysis of blood magic's applications in healing, ward creation, and sustainable agriculture. Some techniques were deemed too dangerous for general use, but others revolutionized pack medicine and magical infrastructure. Blackthorn's internal conflicts stabilized when Morgana used Elara's support to consolidate power among the moderates. Ironpelt and Stormfang settled their territory disputes through Silverthorn mediation. The dynasty grew stronger with each passing week. And through it all, Elara and Kieran led together. Two halves of a whole, their bond the foundation of everything they built. On the anniversary of Elara's coronation, they stood once more in the Great Hall. The 7 thrones were occupied again, not just by representatives, but by the actual heads of houses, all present for the celebration. 1 year, Elara said, addressing the assembled packs. 1 year since I claimed this crown and promised to lead with wisdom and compassion. 1 year since we chose unity over division. It hasn't been easy. We've faced betrayal, violence, and our own doubts. But we're still here. Still standing. Still united. Applause erupted. And, Elara continued, her hand finding Kieran's, we have an announcement. The Silverthorn dynasty will continue. I'm pregnant. The applause became a roar. Kieran's joy flooded through the bond, mixing with her own. This child, conceived in love, nurtured by hope, represented everything they'd fought for. The future. Legacy renewed. Later, alone in their chambers, Kieran placed his hand on her still flat stomach. Scared, he asked. Terrified, Elara admitted. What if I'm a terrible mother? What if I can't balance ruling and raising a child? What if? He silenced her with a kiss. Then we'll figure it out together. Like everything else. Together, she echoed. Through the window, the moon hung bright and full. Not red this time, just silver. Beautiful. Peaceful. Elara thought of her ancestors, the queens who'd come before her. The women who'd loved, fought, died, and dreamed of this moment. When their bloodline would rise again, stronger for having been broken. We did it, she thought, knowing somehow they could hear. The dynasty lives. And we're just beginning. Kieran pulled her close, the bond humming between them, and together they looked toward the future, uncertain, challenging, but filled with promise. Some legacies sleep for centuries, waiting for love to awaken them. Theirs had awakened, and it would never sleep again. 3 years later, the little girl with silver-streaked dark hair and amber eyes laughed as she chased a butterfly through the keep's garden. Lyra, careful, Elara called, but without real concern. Her daughter had inherited both Silverthorn and Ashwood gifts. Enhanced senses, supernatural speed, and an empathy that made her unusually perceptive for a 3-year-old. Kieran sat beside Elara on the garden bench, watching their daughter play. She has your stubborn streak. And your tendency to take unnecessary risks, Elara countered. I call it courage. I call it giving me gray hair before I'm 40. They bantered easily, the bond between them as strong as ever. Around them, the keep bustled with activity. Delegates arriving for the quarterly council, traders from all houses conducting business, children of various bloodlines playing together. The unity Elara had promised was real now. Not perfect. There were still conflicts, still challenges, but sustainable, built on genuine cooperation rather than fear. Lady Morgana approached, her own child, a boy of 5, trailing behind. Your Majesty, Lord Kieran, would you mind if Tomas plays with Lyra? He could use more friends his age. Of course, Elara said warmly. The more the merrier. As the children ran off together, Blackthorn and Silverthorn, once bitter enemies, now allies through the next generation. Morgana sat beside Elara. 3 years ago, I never would have believed this possible, she said quietly. The houses united. Our children playing together. Peace. It's fragile, Elara reminded her. It requires constant work, constant choice to believe in each other. But it's real. That's what matters. Morgana watched the children. Thank you for giving us a chance to be better than our ancestors. After she left, Kieran squeezed Elara's hand. You did it. Everything you promised at your coronation. You made it real. We did it, Elara corrected. I couldn't have done any of this without you. Then we're quite the team. The best. Lyra ran back, breathless and grinning. Mama, Papa, look. She held out her hand, and silver light danced across her palm. Silverthorn magic, already manifesting. I made a butterfly out of light. Elara's throat tightened with emotion. Her daughter would never know the fear and isolation she'd experienced. Lyra would grow up surrounded by love, accepted for her gifts, trained to lead with wisdom and compassion. The dynasty's future was secure. That's beautiful, sweetheart, Kieran said, lifting Lyra into his arms. Just like you. As the sun set over Silver Peak Keep, painting the mountains in shades of gold and amber, Elara felt a profound sense of peace. The trials were over, the prophecy fulfilled, the legacy restored. And the best part, this was just the beginning. Generations would come after her. Children and grandchildren carrying the silver blood, leading with the unity and wisdom she and Kieran had fought to establish. The Silver Dynasty had returned, and it would endure. Forever. The end.